think we should be good to go here.
Okay.
Okay, Chairman Rossler, whenever you are ready.
Good evening and welcome to the City of Vista Planning Commission meeting of January 18th, 2022. This meeting is being conducted utilizing teleconferencing and electronic means consistent with City Council Resolution 2022-5. The public may only view the meeting online and not in the council chambers. I want to go down and to provide public comment during the meeting, join the Zoom meeting via the desktop computer or cell phone. Members of the public will not be shown on the video. They will be able to watch and listen to and speak when called on. If you would like to speak on an item, use the raised hand option on the desktop phone app or press 9 on your telephone when instructed to do so. All comments are subject to the same rules and regulations that otherwise govern speaker comments at the meeting. First item on our agenda is roll call, Ms. Chow.
Certainly. Chairman Rossler,
Here.
Commissioner Savage,
Here.
Commissioner Hastings,
Here.
Commissioner Grimm,
Here.
Commissioner Garrettson,
Here.
Commissioner Looney. I think I saw him.
Muted.
I think he's muted.
Yes, sir.
All right, and Commissioner Aguilera.
Here.
All right, all present. And I don't know if the student commissioners, sorry about that. Kasani Rio Herrera and Peter Childs, I'm not seeing them listed here. All right, thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Commissioners, we've received the minutes from our December 7th, 2021 meeting. If there are no changes to the minutes, can we entertain a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting notes.
Okay, Commissioner Looney has moved to approve the minutes. Commissioner Garrettson, would you like to second?
I second the motion.
Very good.
I have a question, Chairman.
Yes.
Did we, this pertains to tonight's, I guess, too, but did we actually just say lower the number of units, or did we actually come up with suggested number of units?
I don't remember.
I know the number 21 came up at one point, but maybe we weren't very specific.
I don't recall us being specific as to the number of units. We were just, I remember us being concerned with the compatibility to the adjacent neighborhood and lots.
Okay. All right, that's fine. We can talk about it tonight.
Okay. Ms. Chow, would you call the roll, please, for approval of the minutes?
Certainly. Chairman Rossler,
Yes.
Commissioner Savage,
Yes.
Commissioner Hastings,
Yes.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes.
Commissioner Garrettson,
Yes.
Commissioner Looney,
Yes.
Commissioner Aguilera.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Very good. Ms. Chow, are there any changes to our agenda tonight?
No changes tonight, Chairman Rossler.
Okay, thank you. Oral communications is a time that the commission sets aside for members of the public to address the commission on items that are not on the agenda. If you would like to speak during oral communications, hit the raised hand button and Ms. Chow will recognize you. Ms. Chow, anyone wishing to address the commission?
I don't see any raised hands at this point, and no raised hands, Chairman Rossler.
Right. Then we'll move ahead to our public hearings. During the public hearing, staff will make a presentation on the project, which will be followed by additional information from the applicant if they've requested. Following the presentations, the commission will have an opportunity to ask questions of the staff or the applicant for clarification. Following the commission's questions, I will open the public hearing. Again, you'll hit the raised hand button and Ms. Chow will bring you into the conversation. You'll have 3 minutes to address the commission. We had a request earlier today for combined presentation or comments. The city clerk has reminded us that if we do that for one, we have to do it for everyone, and I'm not inclined to do that. So 3 minutes for your comments tonight. Following the last person providing comments, we will close the public hearing. I'll open it up for commissioners' discussion and a decision and an ultimate vote. So first item on the agenda then is a continued public hearing or a new public hearing on a continued item, the Vista Grande subdivision. Mr. Winters, I believe the staff report is yours.
And Chairman Rossler, can you see the presentation right now?
No.
No, okay, hold on for just a second. Okay, because I had that screen up and then some reason is not resuming the share. Hold on, I would just need to do something here. Let me stop sharing something here.
Thank you, Chairman Rossler, and nice to see everyone. The applicant will have a presentation after mine as well.
Very good.
Yeah, sorry about that, Chris. I'm just trying to pull your stuff up and I had it up, but for some reason is not wanting to. Oh, here we go. Let me see if I. Okay. Okay, this hopefully should work. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, I can't see it, but you guys can see. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so let me go back here. Sheesh.
All the slides are listed in number on the left-hand side of the screen, Patsy.
Okay, let me see if I can put it in big here so you can see. It's
There
just
you
the
go.
screen that you can see. Okay,
That looks right.
this should work now. Chris, go ahead.
All right, starting the project off, an abbreviated presentation from last time, since we're familiar with this from a month ago, but this is the Vista Grande proposed subdivision, request for a mitigated negative declaration, general plan amendment, zone change, and tentative subdivision map, now for 25 lot subdivision at 2277 Vista Grande Drive. The applicant is Greg Perrine. Next slide, please. The slide is showing the proposed land use and zoning. On the left-hand side is the existing general plan of rural residential, and that is proposed for a change to low-density residential. On the right-hand side, we have the existing zoning designation of A1, and that is proposed to be changed to E1, estate residential. Next slide. Project history. The project site consists of 17 acres. It was annexed into the city in 2017 with the zone change to A1 zone for 14 lots and a minimum 1 acre in size. On January 12, 2021, the City Council discussed a preliminary proposal from the applicant to allow for an increase in density to 2 dwelling units an acre for the 28 lot subdivision. December 7th, 2021, Planning Commission held a public hearing for the request to amend the general plan land use designation to from rural residential to low density residential and to change the zoning from A1 to E1 estate zone for the 28 lot subdivision with minimum half acre lots. The items discussed by the commission at that time included lot size compatibility with nearby properties, the lack of on-street parking stalls, what the height of the new homes would be, whether 1 story or 2 story, gating of the road connection to Vista Grande Terrace, and landscaping and maintenance. The item was continued to an undetermined date. Next slide. Project details as revised. Just a quick summary. Based on feedback from the Planning Commission, the following changes have been made to the project by the applicant. The project has been decreased from 28 to 25 residential lots. Lots 6 through 11 were enlarged to 3/4 of an acre. Regarding required parking, 113 total stalls would be required based on 25 lots. That's 2 garage stalls per home, which is 50, plus 2.5 stalls per home, guest stalls, which would be 63. The project now includes 16 street side parking stalls in addition to those that are required. Assuming a 3-car garage for 25 homes and room for a minimum of at least 4 parking stalls per driveway, with the 16 street parking stalls, the project will provide a minimum of 191 parking stalls. Additional stalls could be possible on the longer driveways. Just guesstimating, the project could easily accommodate another 20 to 60 parking stalls on the private driveways. The applicant requests to maintain the allowance for 2-story homes under the E1 zone. Next slide. This is the tentative subdivision map as revised, showing the larger lots on the north and east sides of the project boundary. It's a little bit hard to see on this slide, but the applicant has one that will highlight the on-street, street side parking spaces that are adjacent to a few of the lots distributed throughout the site. Next slide, please. We do have revised conditions of approval that were sent to the planning commissioners by email, and we were just working on this today, so you might not have seen it. But to go over that, we've revised conditions for clarification purposes. The first one under the land development engineering conditions states that the road connection from the eastern end of Vista Grande Drive to Vista Grande Terrace shall be gated to provide for required secondary emergency access only, and a corresponding note shall be shown on the final map. Under the fire department conditions, one condition was revised to state the gated secondary emergency access to be installed on the access roadway between Vista Grande Drive and Vista Grande Terrace shall be a simple pull gate design with a Knox padlock. Added conditions include the project's construction traffic is prohibited from using Vista Grande Terrace, and at no time shall construction or grading activities block access to Vista Grande Terrace or its easement holders. And also, vehicular access shall be provided for the residents that take access on Vista Grande Drive at all times during construction. Next slide, please. Under environmental review, a mitigated negative declaration was prepared. That was circulated for public review from October 2nd through November 1, 2021. The amended project does not include any new potentially significant environmental impacts or increase any of the previously analyzed potentially significant environmental impacts that would require further mitigation than already required by the mitigation monitoring and reporting program. Pursuant to the California Code of Regulations, recirculation of the negative declaration is not required. Next slide, please. Staff's recommendation is for adoption of a resolution recommending City Council approval of the MND and mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the Vista Grande subdivision project, and to adopt a resolution recommending City Council approval of the general plan amendment, zone change, and tentative subdivision map for the 25-lot subdivision located at 2277 Vista Grande Drive. That concludes staff's presentation. I can available to answer any questions, and the applicant also has a presentation that will touch on more detailed responses to the commission's previous comments. Thank you.
Chairman Rossler, would you like for the applicant to go into his presentation this time, or do you want to ask questions of Chris?
I think we'll hear from the applicant first and then ask questions of both of them.
Okay, so let me stop sharing here for a second, and I'm going to attempt to bring up the other presentation here. And okay. Can you see this presentation? Okay,
Okay.
so let me put this full screen mode here. And actually, Greg, John, I don't know if you can, I don't see my full screen. Are you able to bring Greg in as a panelist?
I'm actually in, Ms. Chow.
Oh, okay, you're in. Okay,
Yep.
great. Greg, go ahead. And then you just tell me when to flip the slides here to the next one.
Great, thank you so much. Good evening, commissioners. Thank you guys very much for the opportunity to kind of come back in and represent our project. Spent a lot of time with our consultants and city staff to kind of absorb the comments you guys provided us back on December 7th and really kind of represent and reconfigure a project that we feel provides a good and balanced approach to what we want to try to accomplish, as well as kind of maintaining what we tried to originally accomplish with a rural kind of element subdivision. Next slide, please. So I'm going to touch on some things before, we went through this about a month ago. So forgive me if a little bit of it is redundant, but I want to kind of make sure we do reestablish some of the elements that we had talked about before, but with a more heavier focus probably on some of the changes that we've made. So what we show here is kind of some of the existing site conditions. So as the site currently exists today, there's one existing home. The land is fallow, it's bare. Right now there's poor existing infrastructure as you lead up to our development coming easterly on Vista Grande Drive. The existing roadway is approximately 11 to 13 feet. You see the picture off there to the right with a significant deterioration of the road. And with our development, obviously, we're going to be enhancing that roadway to provide better access for not only the existing residents to the south of us, but also the new residents of our project. In addition to that, with that due to the poor infrastructure, fire accessibility issues are currently there. Right now, at least it's in my opinion, that the fire truck is a very challenging time to get up that road due to its existing width and obviously the deterioration of that road. Right now, again, the way the site exists, there's some topography as you head kind of up to the northeast. And, when in a rain event right now, there's significant drainage and erosion issues that do take place. We have been in conversations with some of the neighbors to the south, whereby when a rain event does take place, sediment, mud, dirt, et cetera, all kind of flow into their garages and their driveways. And so obviously with the development of this site, we'd be putting in the appropriate best management practices to kind of collect that stormwater and treat it before we discharge it. When we set out on this envision, we had a couple project goals in mind. One is to provide just a sustainable housing community for the city of Vista. We also really wanted to kind of spend a significant amount of time embracing the community, both citizens and residents who may be for the development and some that may not be. And we spent a significant time with city staff as well as these residents to really kind of understand and listen to some of their concerns and try to incorporate the best we can to maintain the existing semi-rural environment and the elements that we see around the surrounding area. Next slide, please. So, when we met on December 7th, we had a great dialogue with not only the commissioners, but also some of the surrounding residents who came up and spoke on the public forum. And we identified a few key areas that we really wanted to kind of focus on to go back and retool and reassess to see if it's something that we could really accommodate with our development. I'll go over the three that we have here. A couple of the other ones that we felt were also equally as important, were on the list are the existing roadway on Vista Grande Drive. I think it was Commissioner Rossler had mentioned, why we didn't move forward with that road being public. And when we started the design and further confirmed with the city after our meeting on December 7th was the city has no intent nor ability to own and maintain that road. We spoke to them very early on in that process, and they had a preference that we make it private so that it would be ultimately owned and maintained by the HOA. And so that's kind of how we ultimately continued to kind of pursue that option. The second one that's not really noted here is, I believe something that Commissioner Aguilera had brought up in regards to SB9, the new legislation that allows you to kind of separate lots, maybe add some additional lots. And since our meeting on December 9th, we went back through and did our own research and spoke with some individuals, and we were able to kind of define, I think, with a little bit more clarity as to what SB9 is for and how it may or may not apply to our particular development. Most notably, we have a kind of a letter written from Senator Tony Atkins back in August of 2021, specifically clarifying that property or new developments that have an HOA are exempt and they actually override the rules and regulations of SB9. So we do have the ability within our CC&Rs to prohibit the subdividing those particular lots. And so we would likely do that in order to ensure the integrity and the elements that we want to try to protect in this area. The three kind of other topics that we've mentioned that we really focus on, and after kind of speaking with city staff and really going through and discussing what they heard, what we heard, and kind of comparing notes, were these three areas of the density and the transitional layout. The thought was consider some less density along the north and the east property lines as it transcends into a potential project to the north Kawano Farms, as well as some of the existing residents there off to the east. The second was the parking. I think the commissioners were looking for a little bit more parking throughout the development to allow for some proper guest parking. And then the last one again is how are we going to kind of, add some additional layers of privacy along the eastern property line for some of those existing residents. Next slide, please. So at high level here, just to kind of give you a little summary of where we're at, the original proposal that we came to the table with on December 7th, 17 acres, 28 1/2 acre lots, 1 storage unit mix, and kind of an overall density of about 1.65 units to the acre. After going back and trying to look at how we could find ways to, I think, accomplish some of the tasks or challenges that were presented to us on December 7th, we came back and what you currently see here is an exhibit off to the left that kind of highlights some of the lots or 6 of them that we transitioned from, the original were 9 there because we went from 28 lots down to 25. So we reduced the overall project density by over 10%. And these 6 lots that you see identified on the north and the easterly PL are minimum 3/4 acres. And so when we went back through the reconfiguration process, where we left with is now we're at 25 single family detached lots. 19 of those lots are 1/2 acre minimums and 6 of them are 3/4 acre minimums. And we kind of specifically placed those in the areas of where we thought based on our interpretation of our conversation back on December 7th and in connection with the city staff. With that reduction in lots, we're down to now about 1.47 units to the acre, which kind of provides and I think accomplishes some of that transitional layout that we had talked about. Most of the property to the south of us is, in the city of Vista proper, all 1/2 acre lots. And so we kind of figure as we're coming up from the south, making our way up to the northeast, we have a little bit more density on the front side of our lot. And as you get to the further part of the north and the east, we made these lots larger to kind of allow for a better transition. Again, mainly for the existing residents to the east, as well as the proposed project to Kawano to the north of us. Next slide, please. Chris kind of touched on this a little bit, so kind of for some further clarity, and again, my apologies for a little bit of the redundancy, but per the city code, based on what we're proposing for the 25 single family detached lots, we have an obligation to provide 50 enclosed parking stalls, another 62.5 open guest parking spaces as well, for a total of about 112. The exhibit you see here off to the right was something we showed back at our December 7th meeting. And what this effectively is for a typical lot, these are larger lots. They span pretty good distance, but generally speaking, we're going to have, between 30 and 40, maybe even larger driveways in length, which allows for us to make some parking there. And we figured we'd put 4 parking spaces kind of for each home. And so, we're going to have 3-car garages at a minimum. Some of these lots will likely have 4-car garages, but just to kind of be conservative, we took the 3-car garage approach. And, that allows us to 75 spaces there. And then with the driveway, with an allowance of 4 per lot, that gets us to another 100. And then we, went through back this configuration after listening and hearing from what the commissioners had talked about at the December 7th meeting, that we want to see some additional parking on the street. And so we took that to heart. We went through the city standards. We worked with our consultant team and put together some additional street parking kind of throughout the development to better accommodate, the more common use and as guests do arrive to kind of take benefit of the homes. So next slide, please. This here is an illustration kind of in continuance of the last slide that really illustrates the areas in which we have added additional parking. As mentioned before, you can kind of see the highlighted yellow areas. Those are the areas that we have kind of carved out for, call it pop-outs, if you will, for these particular guest spots. We have 16 throughout the development. And right now, as they're shown, they're kind of inlets that or pop-outs that come in. And right now they show a pretty rough kind of edge. We anticipate as we get into final engineering, we'll kind of do a little bit better of a roundabout to kind of get in and out of these particular parking stalls to allow for better just functionality and ingress and egress. But nevertheless, the illustration here shows that we took to heart what you guys had mentioned in respect to parking, and we kind of add that. And not only we kind of isolated one specific area, but we really kind of did our best to kind of allocate that amongst the entire development. So in conjunction with the enclosed parking with the 3-car garage minimums, the driveway parking and the on-site guest street parking, we're at about a total of 191 parking spaces, which is well in excess of the required 112.5. And so we feel that based on this new reconfiguration of parking, specifically the street parking, we're adequately parked, and I think we're adequately parked in the appropriate places. Next slide, please. The other element that we had discussed is the privacy along the eastern property line. And what we have done here in this particular regard is this exhibit you'll see up to the right is something that provides an illustration of what we tried to accomplish with respect to those lots. So for context, that lot up there to the upper right is the northeastmost lot, lot number 9. And what we did is, for illustrative purposes, we kind of dropped in a general footprint of what the house might be, the house footprint. And kind of, I guess, set the context in review of the code and the requirement for what we're proposing. There's a requirement to have a 50-foot setback from center line and a side yard setback of 10 feet and a rear yard setback of 20. So what I wanted to kind of highlight here, illustrate, and it's kind of hard to see on the actual screen, but you can see the orange box there on lot 9. What that shows is that that's at the minimum setback of 50 feet from the center line. And what we wanted to show is what that distance looked like from that point to our PL along the eastern and northern property line. You'll see for that given lot, we did a couple of measurements. The first one there is upwards of 190 feet. So if we were to go build a home footprint, which is currently, for illustrative purposes, shown as a 60 by 60, which is a 3,600 square foot kind of footprint, there's about anywhere from 120 to 190 feet from the back of that house to the edge of the property line. Our goal here is to kind of show that, one, the privacy, I think, is adhered to and is respected. I think there's a significant distance from the rear of the house to those property lines. And, again, these are just for illustrative purposes as we move forward, kind of final plotting and final engineering. It's something we'll go back and refine. But, these are significantly large lots. Some of these lots have depths of 220 to 230 feet. And as you make your way south from lot 9 with lot 10 and lot 11, you'll still see that consistency of over 100 feet distant from the back of our house to the east property line. And so privacy, we understood it, we respected it. And I think, again, with these larger lots, I think it really kind of adheres to the genesis of what we were trying to accomplish effectively. Next slide, please. So kind of what we had touched on before is, one of our goals was this continued outreach. And we've done our best to do that and adhere to that. We've seen this charts before. We want to just kind of illustrate to you guys what we've done to date. And I won't get into it too much because, again, this is something we talked about before. But, we've met with city council members, we've met with staff members, we've met with neighborhood constituents. We've done our best to send out publications monthly through a newsletter to everyone that we had email addresses for, to keep them apprised of what we were trying to do and what we were accomplishing in real time. And so, again, we feel with all the feedback we've received over the last 14 months, the elements that we've kind of proposed in our current project is something that has been given to us from the surrounding area, from city staff, and some of the stakeholders throughout the city of Vista. Next slide, please. So to kind of summarize again, some of the benefits that we see in this particular development of what we're proposing, with the new refined configuration, we feel we've met a lot of the suggestions and criticism of our last meeting on December 7th. We've had these large lot residential homes. We've maintained some common area open space. We strongly believe that with this new transitional layout, we are in conformance with some of the existing homes to the south, some of the existing to the east, and then the proposed project that may or may not take place to the north of us at Kawano Farms. Further, we had talked about the infrastructure needs and how deteriorated some of those improvements are as you kind of come up to our project development on Vista Grande Drive. We are going to be widening that street. It's going to be a 28-foot wide street, which again will not only provide better access to some of the existing residents to our immediate south, but also provide the adequate infrastructure needed for our actual development, as well as fire and life safety to come and help, better prepare and better fight fires in these areas. Water quality was another big component we strongly worked on, and obviously as a requirement to go through the state of California, our water quality management plan is something that, where we had mentioned before, right now, in its existing state, a lot of rainwater, stormwater would come down, deteriorate, erode some of those slopes, and fall into some of those adjacent neighbors to the south. Our program is we're going to be collecting the water, we're going to be treating the water, we're going to be storing the water, and we're also going to be discharging it over time. And our stormwater water quality design is something that can handle a 100-year storm, which is a requirement. But based on what we have and what we're proposing, we believe that the ability to actually capture the water, treat it, and then store it and discharge it over time is going to be a huge savings of impact and time for not only the neighbors to the south, but just the overall general area as well. We have a pretty significant landscape palette. There's a lot of slopes, and what we've shown on the conceptual landscape plan is something that's kind of consistent with the plant palette throughout the surrounding areas. And so we feel as we kind of continue to further refine the different palettes, it would be something that would be desirable for the area, desirable for our community. We touched on briefly last time, there's an existing overhead utility structure on poles along kind of our south property line where future Vista Grande Drive will be widened. And we have an obligation to kind of underground those power poles, those lines, which I think again would help from just one in aesthetics, but also from just a potential fire hazard. We've seen over the years and times that, you know, a blown transformer can sometimes spark a fire. And with the entire system being underground, we feel that would alleviate the potential for a potential fire hazard. In addition to some of the other safety provisions we've taken kind of throughout the project, we are also committed and conditioned to kind of have some additional slow down signs along Vista Grande Drive as you make your way up the bend. We heard from some of the community members that this is currently an issue. Some vehicles travel rather faster on that corner, and so we're going to do our best to kind of put some additional signage up to ensure there's the proper safety and proper miles per hour being driven. Next slide, please. One of the other benefits that we had touched on before that we felt was a significant regional benefit, and it's something that we actually had committed to. We touched on this before, but Vista Grande Drive, East Vista Way at Warmlands, it's an existing intersection that has some troubling traffic patterns. And in conversation with the city and in conversation with the city council members early on, we discussed, hey, what are some of the challenges you guys are having with the city in our surrounding general area? And one of them was the safety issues and some of the traffic pattern issues there at East Vista Way and Warmlands. And as we work with city staff on what we can do to help benefit and really provide an impact to this particular area, we said, hey, what can we do in this particular given intersection? And we did a traffic study. The traffic study didn't warrant any enhancements or improvements based on the daily trip traffic that our project would be generating. But we also understood and heard from the residents of the importance of this. And so what we committed ourselves to do on our own accord was really go in and do this improvement. This is an improvement that's about 150 feet long. We're going to be widening East Vista Way about 20 feet, putting in kind of the curb adjacent improvements, the sidewalk, the parkway landscape, creating for better circulation from a pedestrian standpoint. We're going to be putting in walkways that currently do not exist today. And East Vista Way is a pretty heavily traveled road. And without having the proper walkways, it's pretty unsafe. And in dealing with some of the city council members, it was very important for them to at least provide some kind of continuity for them from a pedestrian standpoint. But we felt like an obligation to what we can do. And this improvement is a permanent improvement. Once it gets built, it's not anything that's going to be an interim condition. We are building it to its ultimate right of way and something that will stay there in longevity and in perpetuity. So we're very proud of what we've done to kind of make a commitment to that. And again, this was something that was on our own accord, wasn't warranted from our traffic study. But we felt, again, as a way to kind of be balanced and provide for the overall community, this is something that we are willing to commit the project to doing. Next slide, please. So to kind of summarize, we're currently proposing 25 large lot residential community. After our meeting on December 7th, we really went back and put pen to paper, worked with our great consultant team, worked with the city staff to really address, I think, some of the comments that were provided. Again, mainly the ones with the transitional layout from the lot standpoint, the parking requirement, and some of the privacy concerns. And so we feel what we've provided is a balanced project that is consistent with some of the feedback we received on December 7th. We also feel very proud of some of those enhanced adjacent and regional infrastructure that we had talked about before. And as we move forward, the project is going to meet all the different compliance from a sustainable project standpoint. The home materials are going to be the highest of quality. All the homes will be fired sprinkler. The enhanced infrastructure for water purposes for firefighting is going to be greatly enhanced as we're going to be putting in a loop water system way further north than where the current water exists today. So we really think it opens up that whole region, not only us, but some of our neighbors to the east for better fire protection and fire serving. Next slide, please. So again, I want to just thank you guys very much for the time and the opportunity to come and represent. I hope we've addressed some of the concerns we had talked about on December 7th. I look forward to your comments and feedback. And again, thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Commissioners will open it up now to questions for staff or the applicant. Commissioner Grimm, do you have any questions? And,
I don't have any questions at this time.
all right. Commissioner Aguilar?
Is it possible that you point out the open space for us?
Yeah, we can do that. Patsy, I'm not sure. Do you want me to, can you pull the slide again?
Sure, let me see, I'm trying to go back here. Let's see here.
Yeah, and as she's pulling that up, Commissioner Aguilera, I could kind of, if you look at the kind of the lower southeast part of our site, there's about a 4,800 square foot kind of open area down there. And the other two areas that we have identified are more on the western side of the project. As you enter the project off Vista Grande Drive and make an immediate left, you'll see kind of some common area open space there to the right as well. So between those three areas, we're at
the lower southeast, you're talking about by lot 12?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so that is open. That's where the tank is going to be, basically.
Correct.
Can you see the screen? Or the
Yes.
project
Yeah.
site? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then as you enter the project on the west side.
Correct. Yeah. As you enter the project, you can make your immediate left. You'll see kind of just to the east, there's a big greenery area along those lots 19, 20, and lot number 1.
So as far as the plantings that you show in your landscape here, what are we looking at? What size trees are you bringing in? And
Yeah. It kind of still to be determined at a certain point. We do have a mix of 5 gallon, 15 gallons, and 24-inch box trees on the street. So it's just depending on the location, but most of the slopes will have some significant, 15-foot or 15-gallon trees, and then mainly on the street parking or along the street, we'll have 24-inch box trees.
how about say on the east and the northeast area?
Yeah, so
on the adjacent to the neighbors.
Yes, sure. No, absolutely. That will be, the slope, correct. Yeah, I think it's going to be a palette that'll be further defined as we get to final engineering, more or less. But again, we are going to be putting up the appropriate plant palette with the appropriate sizes. The other thing, in addition to that, Commissioner Aguilera, is that we spoke with city staff this week, maybe late last week, and some of those lots that you see specifically along the eastern property line, the north property line, and even as it comes down over there on lots 6, 5, and 4, those lots are kind of downslopes for our homeowners. And one of the concerns the city brought up is, well, is the homeowner really going to care about maintaining those? They really don't see it, which is a very valid concern. And as we talked through it, we worked with city staff and worked with the city engineer and everyone to kind of say, hey, maybe it's best to make sure that we put an easement over those, that those are going to be HOA maintained. And I think we've updated the conditions of approval to make sure that those are going to be HOA maintained, to ensure that from a visual and aesthetic standpoint, the surrounding neighbors to the east and the potential ones that come to the north are looking at something that's going to be maintained by the HOA as opposed to a potential homeowner who may or may not. And in addition to that, there'll be further restrictions in the CC&Rs as to what that homeowner may or may not be able to do within those sloped areas.
I think that's a great idea for 6, 5, and 4. Are you saying 9, 10, and 11, the same thing?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
You good, John?
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Garrettson, questions for staff or the applicant?
Yes. Could you go over where the sidewalks are going to be? I know they're internally, but are there going to be sidewalks or walkways on Vista Grande?
Yeah, sure. So if I can kind of illustrate a little bit, as you enter the project off Vista Grande Drive, the sidewalk, if you can kind of envision the interior loop along lots 13 through 19, as you kind of make your way northerly, it's going to be all in that interior loop. There's going to be a cohesive and connected walkway. That's where we're proposing to have the sidewalk throughout the entire circulation of the development.
But not on the southernmost part of Vista Grande.
Correct, just on the northern part.
So Vista Grande will be widened, but not with a sidewalk.
No sidewalk on the south, but there will be a sidewalk on the north, correct?
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Hastings, questions for the applicant or staff?
Yes, I had a question for the applicant. In your summary of the current proposed project on the slide that's shown right now, it says that you have added in 1 and 2 story unit mix. You didn't mention much about how you came back to proposing some 2 story. Where would that be and what would that mean?
Great question. I think we, at this point in time, we we believe we need the flexibility in order to determine if we're gonna have 1-story or 2-story homes. We do envision there to be a lot of single-story homes throughout the development. And in certain areas, just to have the flexibility of footprint. Again, with some of these larger lots and the adjacencies and the vantage points, we think that we've accomplished some of the, that not need to have a single-story home. But we haven't really fully designed the exact lotting of where things are going to go. But to have the flexibility is important to us at this point in time. Ultimately, as we evolve and assess the marketplace, we want to put forth a product that we think the market is going to desire and really treasure. And so we're at this point in time still in the process of defining where that may or may not be from a single-story versus a 2-story.
I know that it's a concern of some of the existing neighbors. So I was wondering if you were having some kind of prohibition against 2-story where they were concerned about looming.
Yeah, I think we heard the conversations last time from some of the members about the looming. I think the one slide that we had illustrated with specifically along the eastern edge to show the true distance of where our proposed home is going to be in relation to the lot line. I think 110 up to 190 feet is a pretty significant difference. I don't believe any of those residents to the east are going to be able to see our homes, whether if they're a 1-story or 2-story, just based on some of the elevations and based on that distance from the back of the home to the property line, which again exceeds upwards of 190 feet.
Okay, I guess that is something that you can't really give a totally specific answer to right now, right? That it's the 2-story homes would be where the developer decides.
Yeah, I mean, I think
the right location.
Yeah, I mean, I think we would further dive into it once we get to the final engineering part and have some more information. We're at obviously a conceptual stage, preliminary stage with a lot of good information, but we need to kind of still refine the grades from the pad elevation standpoint and really look at that. But yeah, we would have that ability to kind of put where we want to do it, recognizing the adjacencies. We have no intent to impede anyone's vantage points or views or be looming by any stretch of the imagination. We've been pretty forthright and upfront about that the entire time. So we would use our best judgment in connection with the city staff on the architecture as we got to that point.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Looney, questions for applicant or the staff?
Questions for both. Thank you. For staff, Chris, could you give us some background as to the basis of city council approval for the 14 lots back in 2017? What prompted the 14 lots versus 20 lots?
The prior applicant proposed 1-acre lots. It was based on the existing general plan designation within the city's sphere of influence of rural residential, which allows for the 1 unit per acre density. In conjunction with that, they applied for the corresponding zone change to establish the zoning for the area that would then be annexed into the city as A1 zoning agricultural. I don't have a lot of background on how they originally looked at the feasibility of the project or anything like that, but I think it was based on the existing rural residential designation.
Okay. Because I know staff and council spend a lot of time deciding what the general plan will be. And I just think it's a giant step going from 14 lots to 25 lots. So that was the question. Another question for staff is, why is it that the city is not requiring Vista Grande Drive to be a public street rather than a private street? Because it seems to be kind of an abrupt end where the new subdivision is being proposed. It seems like it would make a lot more sense for Vista Grande Drive to be public, at least up to the point where that access road ties into Vista Grande Terrace. So could you give us a little bit of maybe background as to why it's a private street and why the city isn't pushing it to be a public street?
That's more of a preference that leans on our engineering division. So John Conley might chime in, but I did check with our city engineer and they definitely prefer that this remain as or be established as a private road. It takes the burden off the city for the maintenance of that.
So
You
then,
know, I'll add to that, Commissioner Looney, the reason that we require private streets in almost all of our new residential development is the fact that we have a limited base for maintenance of these public roads that we do have to maintain. And we stretch our dollar right now to make it work to maintain the public streets that are already in our system. As we build out residential development, if we allow for every developer to put in public streets, it would really cripple our ability to maintain them. So for the past 20 or so years, we have, for almost every single residential opportunity, unless it's already on a public thoroughfare, required a private street for new development.
okay, thanks, John. Now for the applicant. You had mentioned that on lots 4, 5, and 6, that those slopes were going to become common space where the HOA would maintain those. Would we not have the same issues for lots 13 through 19, where those are lots with steep slopes on the northern face where no one's going to see them?
Yeah, great point. So if I could address that. So maybe a couple points of clarification. Those slopes along 4, 5, and 6 that you referenced, they're still going to be part of the lot, but there's going to be an HOA easement over it for the maintenance of it.
Okay.
And the reason the difference between that and the ones you mentioned along 13 and 19 is 13 and 19 are kind of from those paths as they go up to the north. Those are upslopes. So
Right.
the homeowner is looking at those. They have the ability to control and maintain that over time. They're really the only ones that kind of see that slope. Whereas the ones in question that you mentioned, 4, 5, and 6, being that they're downslope, the homeowner doesn't really get much benefit from that downslope. So we felt that, hey, they would have a less propensity to probably maintain that because they don't visually see it every day. But some of those adjacent lots would see those. And so that's why we felt it to be important for those specific lots, because they're on a downslope. We would make sure that those were HOA maintained.
Okay. A comment on the, let's call it street parking. Two things. One, it's a long walk for some of those people if they're going to park on the street to walk 2 or 3 lots down. So I think for me, the location of those is somewhat arbitrary, where they fit where you put them, but it really doesn't make a lot of common sense. If I'm having a party in lot number 1 and the nearest parking is over by lot number 4, I think the site design could be improved upon in that area. And then on those parking spaces too, on the grading plan, tentative grading plan, I think it would be advantageous to have a tapered curb cut to go into those parking spaces rather than a curve that's 90 degrees to the parallel parking, because those are really somewhat problematic in getting in and out of. So, and then the last comment, actually another comment, parcels 13 through 18 are somewhat higher than the street elevation. Lot 14 is 6 feet above the street elevation. Lot 16 is 12 feet above the street elevation. These are going to require some steep driveways. And they're also going to require some extended lengths of driveways. So what kind of slopes are you looking at for these driveways to access these building plans?
Sure. Yeah, great. I mean, I think as we definitely get further in the final engineering, it'll be refined. What we know to date, Commissioner Looney, is we've had specific conversations with city staff and the fire department to understand what those tolerances are from a slope standpoint. We have every intent to meet the standards of both fire and the city in regards to those. The current allowance from a fire perspective, because these will be concrete driveways, they do allow for a 15% slope and up to 20. We would never endeavor to go that steep because we recognize just the practicality of that. But to answer your question, as we kind of refine from a final engineering standpoint, we are aware of what those codes and requirements and standards are. We will adhere to those, and we will work with city staff and the fire department to make sure we're in compliance with the required slopes for those driveways.
Are you currently in the high fire zone?
We are currently not in the high fire severity zone.
Okay.
Not in the very high fire severity zone.
Okay. Do you have a 150-foot hose pull requirement by the local fire department in this region?
We do. Where we've designed with our current access, the fire department has reviewed this plan. They've plotted where the fire hydrants need to be, and in conversation with them, and based on the conditions of approval we receive, we're in compliance with all those requirements from hose pulls and required gallons per minute.
Fire hydrant rotation is one thing. Fire hose pull is different.
Sure. And I think with the use of pumper trucks and the ability, that's part of the reason why we have to adhere to, with these, like you mentioned, longer driveways. I think these large lots do lend themselves to have longer driveways. And based on conversations with the fire department, the reason for the requirement for the restriction on the slope and well as it being in concrete is they may actually have to pull their truck up slightly onto that driveway in order to protect that and put out a fire. That was discussed with the assistant fire marshal today to kind of confirm and validate that. So based on that design, they feel that it's adequately designed to do such.
Okay.
Associate Planner Chris Winters, if I could just chime in. What happens when the applicant submits their construction drawings? They are routed to the fire department for a final plan check. At that time, they look at the final locations proposed for the fire hydrants. They also look at the transitions in the grade for the driveways at the top and the bottom of those slope to make sure they won't have any issues with the fire trucks getting access to those lots. And to follow up on a comment that the chairman made last time, it's at that 15-degree or exceeding level to where the fire department requires the driveway to be scored or heavy broomed or deep broomed as they refer to it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Then the last question. Lots 12 and in 20, 21, 22, and 23 are really, particularly lots 12 and 23 is somewhat awkward, and 23 is very narrow. So I know that you used a 60 by 60 preliminary footprint for the bigger lots in the subdivision, but on pad 23, we only have a 45-foot wide buildable area. So you're going to end up with a very long and narrow house on that. And I think it really doesn't keep the character of the rest of the subdivision that, for those lots 12 and 22 in particular. So those are my concerns. But thank you, Greg.
Yeah, Commissioner Lee, if you don't mind, I'll address that. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Lot 23 is definitely a lot that's a little bit different in nature from a width standpoint. We've kept that lot. We've looked at it. We've kind of started to define the engineering and perspective on where the certain footprint might be. And based on our calculations, when you take kind of the minimum setback from center line from the front, and you plot what we plot is actually a 50-foot wide home by 60 feet deep. We do have plenty of space still to accommodate the 10-foot setback on the south property line. And then where it gets to that influence of the slope, we still have 12 feet from the edge of the house up to that toe or to the toe of slope. And so we're based on that plot. That's for a 50-foot wide product, which is a pretty significantly wide product. Obviously, the lot's a little bit more narrow, rectangular. And if we had to, as we go further into final engineering, we do have the ability to put in some form of kind of retaining wall. And so if you can envision kind of a 2-to-1 slope as it goes up, if we put a 5-foot retaining wall in, that would allow us 10 feet of horizontal to pick up to allow for better continuity. But as it exists today, we feel that we still do have about a 12-foot offset from the side of the house to the slope to the north and accommodating the 10-foot setback to the south.
Okay. That's all that I have, Jim.
Okay, very good. Commissioner Savage, any questions of staff or the applicant?
Yeah, I think I just have one that kind of ties to Commissioner Hastings' comments about the two stories. So my first question is for the applicant. I was curious if you guys would be willing to designate a few lots that would stay one story. For instance, on the elevations or from the side view, I noticed lots 22, 23, 25, and lot 7 seem to be pretty high. Or they're set pretty high if you're going to match the existing topography. So would you guys be willing to identify the lots that are pretty high and call those single story and confirm that those will not be 2-story? And just I wanted to see what your thoughts were on that, applicant.
I appreciate that. And obviously our goal is to put forth a plan and the homes that we feel is going to be consistent. We obviously don't want to do anything to impact any of the views from not only the surrounding residents, but also the new residents we have here. And at this point in time, it's at least in our opinion, it's maybe somewhat preliminary to identify specific lots if we want to have a single story. Like I mentioned, we do envision there to be a significant amount of single stories throughout. I think as we further refine the plan and if the grades do change, at the end of the day, it's going to be in the essence of maintaining the existing elements and making sure that we don't actually impact any of those views or vantage points. So at this point in time, just due to the preliminary nature, we just, it'd be a little bit more challenging for us to actually define specific lots that we're going to put single story on. But we have every intent to obviously adhere to what we do, what we think is best for the overall community and ultimately where we want to place those single story lots.
And then I got a question for staff related to that. Do we have any verbiage that indicates the flow of the existing land that we're going to try and keep the applicant to? Try and keep elevations from reaching a certain obstruction? Do we have any kind of language in here for that?
No, not exactly. No, we don't have anything like that. Is there, if I'm tracking your question correctly?
I'll chime in real quickly. Just Commissioner Savage, the elevations that are proposed in terms of the grading and layout for the site are what they're showing on the map. So the tentative map shows the elevations of each of the pads. They would have to stick to those in final engineering. We give them the ability to vary by 18 inches or so in final engineering, depending on pad location. But basically the tentative map is what sets the elevation of each pad. If you wanted to dictate the size or height of the structure on the pad, the commission does have the ability to condition this map because of the zone change request to limit, certain lots to 1-story or 2-story if they want to do so. But the staff has not made that recommendation as part of our staff recommendation.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I think I have a good handle on that. Thank you. That's it for me.
Okay, very good. For me personally, most of my concerns were addressed by the other commissioners. I think that tapering your on-street parking bays is going to be necessary. Otherwise, people are going to be parallel parking into the on-street spaces. So we'll talk about that when we get through. We will now move on to the public hearing. If you are online with us and wish to address the commission on the project, if you will hit the raised hand button, and Ms. Chow will bring you into the meeting. So our public hearing is now open. Ms. Chow?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Rosler. So I'm going to basically call, I see a couple of hands up, raised hands here. So I'm going to call you in the list, in the order that's listed here, starting with Michelle. So I'm going to allow you to talk, Michelle. Go ahead. Go ahead, Michelle. You have to unmute yourself.
All right, thank you. This is Dan Webster. Michelle is here with me as well. I would like someone to explain exactly why all the traffic from this project goes out on Vista Grande Drive. And there's a lot on Vista Grande Terrace. And it seems like it would make sense to split the traffic and allow it to go in both directions. but Vista Grande Terrace apparently is exempt from this project in terms of traffic flow. Could you explain why that is exactly?
Chris, can you handle that, or do we need to have the applicant tell us?
I'll take that actually. The reason that all the traffic is going out Vista Grande Drive and not Vista Grande Terrace is that Vista Grande Drive is a public street and the city maintains it, so it's open to any public traffic. Vista Grande Terrace is a private street along which the easement holders that live on Vista Grande Terrace have rights to, but it's not open to the public. So this property owner would have to have rights from those easement holders in order to use Vista Grande Terrace for their project access.
Thank you, John. Dan, any other questions for staff or the applicant?
No, thank you.
All right, very good. Ms. Chow, who's next?
Okay, let me go back to the list here. And next will be Alisa Williams Davis. Go ahead, Alisa.
Am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great.
Good.
Thanks for the opportunity to make some points here. My husband and I feel that the overarching concerns that were presented at the December 7th meeting have not been adequately addressed in this updated plan by the applicant. For instance, concerns about wildfire safety, traffic density, the semi-rural character of our neighborhood, open space issues, and concerns about grading, and which would degrade the natural slopes and hillsides of our landscape, of Vista's landscape. Others of our neighbors have brought up concerns about securing homeowners insurance because of the elevated fire hazard level. And we are in our area, we have signs that say we are at a high fire hazard zone. Okay, but what I want to focus on in this brief time I have is to bring attention to concerns that were brought forth by the San Diego County Department of Environmental Health and Quality. Colleen Hines, who is a supervising environmental health specialist, brought up 2 points. The first one had to do with groundwater contamination because of abandonment of existing wastewater treatment systems. And I'm glad to say that the applicant has addressed that and said that they will remove all of those pre-existing sewage and septic systems. But her second concern had to do with the potential that grading at that site is going to reduce the area available for wastewater dispersal fields on lots surrounding the development site, which is our backyard and our neighbor's backyard. She stated that this could compromise the ability to keep sewage below ground. Okay, picture that. It's resulting in what she called daylighting sewage. So that would definitely pose a public health threat. In response, the applicant basically reassured us that their engineer, i.e. the applicant's engineer, felt the issue was adequately addressed. So in conclusion, we hope that the city of Vista does not decide to rezone the project site and not amend that general plan for Vista. The reduction from 28 to 25 lots seems inadequate. But most importantly, or very importantly, all of these issues we've brought up with traffic, wildfire, grading, open space, environmental health, that they be researched using consultants that are not hired by the applicant. We need consultants that are demonstrably and transparently unbiased. That's my main concern here. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Alisa.
John, could you just briefly describe how we retain the environmental consultants who prepared the mitigated neg deck?
The consultants that were used in this project are consultants that are on call for the city and work for us directly The technical consultants for some of their technical studies were their own consultants, but we retained third-party consultants to review those studies to confirm that they're accurate prior to inclusion in the environmental document.
Thank you. Chris, what do we know about the county's comment on the daylighting of sewer on adjacent properties?
Mr. Chairman, I'll look that up right now. Just take me a second.
Okay. All right. Ms. Chow, why don't we move on to our next participant, and we'll get back to Mr. Winters in a few minutes.
Sure. So next on the list, we have Ursula Sack, and Ursula, go ahead. You have to unmute yourself.
Okay, I think I have it now.
Yes.
There you go.
Go ahead.
Wonderful. Thank you. Hi, I'm Dr. Ursula Sack, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my husband, Joe Kreml. We are both members of the Board of Directors of GUARD. While we support fewer homes along the north and east sides of the property, this updated plan makes minimal changes to address the concerns or incorporate the suggestions made by you and members of the public in last month's review meeting. A few slightly expanded lot sizes and a scattering of parking stalls around the property are inadequate to meet the overarching concerns of development on this property. And that is because there is a fundamental flaw in the reasoning behind this proposed rezone. One factor alone, the size of the lots, is being considered here. The half-acre lot size is equated with a rural environment, and that seems to be all there is. That's like saying that all humans over 6 feet tall are basketball players. It takes a lot more than size to make a fine athlete. It takes a lot more than just lot size to make this project consistent with surrounding rural lands. This project is, in essence, suburban sprawl with larger than average lot sizes, destroying a naturally rolling hillside. 70,000 cubic yards of earth must be moved. And what do you get? Those steep driveways, those homes with up to 30-foot high banks in their backyards. This is not a blueprint for how to develop rural lands. The vague promises of 1- and 2-story homes is unacceptable. This property needs a specific plan to limit the height of the houses, especially those on the north and east ridge lines. You don't want houses looming over the surrounding neighborhood, like you have at Delphi Corner. You may not have what people are saying, but be assured that Delphi Corner is not well regarded by many community members. The concern about lack of open space is not addressed in this updated plan. Yes, there are what are kind of like pocket parks, but for the benefit of the residents as well as the neighbors, we ask that you make a condition that a walkable green belt with mature year-round green trees for privacy be provided along the eastern boundary, something that's walkable, something that people can get out into. When this project was discussed last month, we received the impression that this commission had already decided to rezone the property, that a general plan amendment was a certainty, and the only questions being considered by you had to do with potential modifications within the half-acre zoning plan. The strong concern we raised about amending the general plan was not addressed. We submit again that greater consideration of the general plan needs to be taken here. Given the size and pivotal location of this property, rezoning this land will set a precedent that will, in effect, nullify the policies outlined in the general plan in regard to the treatment of county sphere of influence lands annexed by the city. The general plan wisely designates all SOI lands as rural residential, 1-acre lot sizes, to be consistent with the county to protect the rural nature of the outlying areas. The general plan contains the city policies that address this question. There are no other policies, ordinances, or documents at all about this issue. Therefore, if this higher density rezone exists as inevitable that the landowners of every subsequent annexation will request and expect to receive an even higher zoning. Does this commission wish to set a precedent that will essentially abolish the current policy? We believe that the public deserves to hear a discussion among you about that question and an explanation as to why you believe that rezoning the Vista Grande Drive property is appropriate, given the long-term harmful impact to all SOI rural lands. We ask that you thoroughly discuss the question.
Ms. Sack,
Yes?
are you finished? You faded out there at the end.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, very
Oh,
good.
I'm sorry. Did you hear did you get my ending? That was a powerful ending. We ask that you thoroughly discuss the general plan amendment at this meeting.
We got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Winters, going back to the daylight sewage, do we have an answer to that question?
Thank you, Chairman Rossler, and the applicant's engineer. I'm not sure if they're available to speak to, but to go ahead and read from a response provided to them that was included in the project's responses to comments in the MND. The project engineer, PLSA, confirmed that the grading plans considered the existing leach lines that occur along the eastern boundary of the project site. The cut slope along the tract boundary accounts for the required codes and regulations for a 5-to-1 setback for cut grading adjacent to an existing leach line system from an adjacent property owner. The project has been designed to comply with the required setbacks for dispersal fields.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Chow, who's next?
I don't see additional hands that are raised, so I would ask if you are here to speak on the Vista Grande project, would you please raise your hand so I can recognize you at this time? All right, Alisa Willis-Davis, actually you spoke, so we are only allowing new speakers at this time, please. Hayden Davis, go ahead, hold on. Oops. Go ahead, Davis. If you can unmute yourself. Go ahead. Hayden, go ahead. You can go ahead and speak. I believe you are unmuted right now. Yeah, for some reason, we're not hearing the audio here, Chairman Rossler. There might be an issue at their end. Oh, here we go. Go ahead, Davis. Hayden Davis. Nope. Yeah, there seems to be some difficulty. It's unmuted, but we're not able to hear the commenter at this time. We don't have additional raised hands other than Alisa Willis-Davis. I believe you spoke already, so we're still allowing new speakers at this time. I'm not seeing additional hands raised at this point other than Hayden Davis that is not able to, we're not able to hear the audio right now, Chairman Rossler.
Mr. Davis, I apologize that our Zoom meeting isn't allowing you to speak. I would make the comment that our decision tonight will be a recommendation to the City Council. There will be additional hearings before them on the project, and hopefully the technical glitches can be solved by then. So we did, I do want to say that we did all receive the letter that you and your wife wrote to the commission, and that was provided to us today. And I reviewed all your comments concerning the traffic, fire, grading, open space, and biology of the project. So I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and open it up for commissioner discussion and a decision. Commissioner Grimm, any additional comments on the project?
Yeah. I think we've kind of got ourselves in a situation. We gave a lot of comments, we being the planning commission at the last meeting. And what the developer did, he lost 3 units. He's increased the size of the lots on the north and the east side. And by increasing the lot size, even though we lost 3 lots, it makes it difficult to provide some of the other things that we asked for. So it's kind of, I think we've in some ways kind of put him in a pretty tough situation. But I think staff, be that as it may, I think staff's done a pretty good job of trying to work with them to get to address the things that we've asked for at the last meeting. And I think they're considering that we've expanded the lots on those on those 2 sides. I think they've done a pretty good job. I did want to say too, and I'll go back and listen to what everybody else said, but if we do end up approving this project, I would also like to consider a condition that the 16 parking spots, and maybe, I don't remember seeing this in the conditions, I don't think it's there, but that we make sure that in the CC&Rs that those are maintained solely for the use of guests and not for the use of residents there. And anyway, that's my comments to this point.
All right. Commissioner Aguilera, any comments on the project?
Yeah, I'm happy that they made some of the adjustments that we suggested, especially the transition to the neighbors on the northeast and the north side. I think the street improvements are going to improve the area quite a bit, especially for fire access. And I think that despite what I think some of the neighbors think, I think the requirements that the state has for the retention of stormwater on projects in today's building code is actually going to improve drainage quite a bit. So I think it's going to make it better for the surrounding neighbors, but certainly for the project's not going to have a problem. And I've always been a proponent of undergrounding utilities, so that's something that I think is real positive. And I especially like the turn lane that's going to be going in, because that intersection really backs up around 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock. And I think that will help residents that live in that area hopefully get to their homes a little bit quicker than it takes right now. So that's all I have for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner Gitt.
Chairman Rossler,
Yes.
I just wanted to recognize the fact that I saw student commissioners that were actually earlier. I see Peter Childs and I saw Kasani Rio Ejeda that was here before, but I think she might have left the meeting. But I just wanted to let you know that they were here, or they're here, or at least Peter now is here. So in case you wanted to ask them any questions or give them the opportunity to speak, I guess that's all.
Okay, thank you. Peter, we will get to you. You unfortunately are at the end of my list. So Commissioner Garrettson, any comments on the project?
No, I think what they've done in the northeast section of those lots makes me feel a little better in terms of compatibility. That was one of my big issues from the first meeting that we had, was compatibility with the neighboring units or neighboring properties. I feel a lot better about this, but I think there should be some other conditions as we go forward. But no, I have no other questions.
Okay, Commissioner Hastings, additional comments?
Yes. I'm happy to see the changes that the applicant made based on our comments, some of our comments from last time. I have a general question here. I think what I hear from the commenters, the neighbors, is what I would call a general policy question. And that is, what is the purpose of the general plan and what is the purpose of modifying the general plan, and how do we accommodate the changes that may need to be made to the general plan, and does it have to be now? It's just a tiny question. So because what I see here is a major change to the plan at which is at the edge of Vista, right? And addresses the sphere of influence. So I'm not sure how to incorporate that into this more specific discussion. The issues that we're facing for housing and demands for housing may mean that we have to change some of our zoning, right? Or general plan. And is this the time to do it? Do we do it here?
I don't mean to cut you off, but I kind of share the same concerns. And I think we need to hear from John Connolly about the general plan in our sphere of influence and why the decisions were made for the land uses in the sphere. My recollection is that it was like a holding until specific projects came in, but I would like to hear from John on that.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. The general plan designates all of the county lands that are in our sphere of influence outside the city, or the most of it, particularly in this area, as rural residential, 1 unit per acre minimum. And the reason we did that when we updated the plan in 2012 is because most of the outlying county areas were at that 1 acre minimum or larger. And so the city didn't want to promote people annexing into the city and developing their land at lower densities by including a lower density in the general plan. So, we had a policy that everything outside the sphere be rural, so that if it annexes, it comes in at 1 unit per acre, which is consistent with what the county would allow. And therefore people wouldn't be rushing to the city to annex their property into the city to get higher densities. That was the basis for the 14 lots that were approved on this property when it was annexed back in 2016 or 17, whenever it was done. And so that's why it's, zone 1 acre, and that's the basis for the policy. That said, yes, the Planning Commission and the council have the discretion to amend the general plan. The purpose of the general plan is really to provide a plan for the city to use in its, planning of infrastructure, streets, utilities, services, as well as to provide for zoning and for people that, live around the property to understand what's planned there. It's a political, document in some way because it's approved by political decision makers and, elected and appointed officials, and, they can direct changes to the plan. So there are no specific policies in the plan about what we need to make findings for with an amendment. The policies in the plan point to compatibility with surrounding uses and, being consistent with, the uses and character of the land around it, those kinds of findings, most of which are addressed in the environmental document. The commission can agree or not agree with those findings. It's at your discretion. That's, I know, a difficult decision to make, but it's certainly at your discretion. With respect to a precedent here, in some ways, yes, this does create a precedent because it takes lands that were designated rural residential and changed them to low density and a property that was annexed into the city. And so in terms of our policy, one could argue it's precedent setting for future annexations in this area. However, it's certainly not the first time that, land's been annexed into the city at a certain density and then developed later at a higher density. That's obviously happened elsewhere in the city. So that's just some, background on what the purpose of the plan was for and how we're looking at it from the staff side. if the commission wants to get into more, thorough discussion about, what the basis of this particular amendment is, I'd be happy to try to address those questions.
Okay, Commissioner Hastings, does that help?
Yes, that helps a lot. And I didn't mean to stop the flow of the meeting here. I just was concerned about those things. I think it's important to, not having been on the commission that long, to get it clear in my mind. So thank you.
I also want to point out, Commissioner Hastings, real quickly, just to add on, I'm sorry I didn't mention this. There are some policies in the plan about annexation that talk about the rural residential nature of the areas in the sphere and how the city should annex properties. It doesn't prohibit us from annexing properties at a higher density, although it talks about not annexing multifamily or commercial or heavy industrial lands. But this property this particular application is not inconsistent with those policies. We are going to be updating our general plan, and we're going to be going through a process with the commission we'll be involved in, and we'll be able to amend, add, or discuss policies relative to annexation and general plan amendments as that moves forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Commissioner Hastings, any other comments?
No, thank you.
Okay, very good. Commissioner Looney, comments?
Yes. I'm a little disappointed.
Oh, where'd Don go?
He's still
That's
there. He's still there. I think he's probably connection problems. It looks like it froze.
Should we go on to Commissioner Savage and then come back to Don?
Sounds like a good idea.
Okay, Commissioner Savage, any comments on the project?
Yeah, I think in general, the amendment to the smaller pads or to the larger pads was to be creative with the space. Generally, we don't have to approve it at more lots, right, than the 14. And so this is kind of working together between the applicant and the city here. And I think that there might have been some things that were not done exactly in good faith. The parking stalls being one of them. I'm not sure if that's if that was just seen as some way to check a box, but it doesn't seem like it was a very thoughtful solution. But primarily the thing that, and there's a couple things in that line that I'm a little disappointed with this plan. I think something that one of the speakers brought up that would even probably constitute shrinking the lot sizes would be to have a walking path outside of properties 6, 7, 8, just around the edge of the property from terrace over to the east side of the property there, the private street. So I think there's some solutions that could have been brought up, and I don't think I want to hold it up with those ideas, but yeah, I do feel like there could have been some good strides here. The only thing I really want to put officially out there is in particular lots 22, 23, 24, 25, 7, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, and 4. And these are all the lots that exceed the elevation of 700 on the pads. I think I'd like to identify those as single story. I know the applicant was identifying that this is still really rough, but from my understanding from the staff was that we do have we're pretty confident about the elevations of these pads and the layout of and so I think that would be one thing I would like to add into our acceptance if we do move forward with this, is to say that those properties that exceed that 700 stay single story, and then we can allow the rest of them to be two story. But yeah, I think this is a little bit of give and take. And I think that would be the take that I would want to see, just to make sure that we don't exceed too much height on these houses.
Could you give us that list of lots again, please?
Yes. So let me go from lowest number to highest. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 22, 23, 24, and 25.
'23 is that weird lot that they, narrow lot that they have. That might be difficult for them to achieve. And the other ones up to 10. I would think that that would be good with the exception of lot 23. So we can come back and visit that, visit your list here in a moment. I'd really like to get back to Commissioner Looney if we can. John, I'm sorry, was there anything else?
Oh, that was it. Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, I'm sorry. Patsy, can we get back to Don?
Can we try this again?
Yep.
Yeah, there you go.
Right,
There you are.
There you go.
Really kind of an odd thing. Now, I guess I was a little disappointed with the resubmittal. I think their civil could do a better job in site design. We've got some steep slopes, some graded steep slopes that are really not compatible to the existing terrain. That's, I guess, the biggest thing is that it's not consistent with the surrounding community. It is a manufactured place, and we've got random pieces of property, and I think really to make it work for me, they're going to have to reduce the number of lots and reduce some of the steep slopes, because at the maximum slope right now, we've got 32 feet in height from pad 15 to pad 22. From 17 to 21, we've got 23 feet. I just think it needs to be redesigned. I don't want to end up with another project like we have on Delphi's Corner. That was disastrous, in my opinion. And I think the civil engineer can be better, but it does mean that he's probably going to have to use fewer lots. So I know I'm not the positive person right now, but I can't support this project the way it is.
Right, very good. Student Commissioner Childs, do you have any comments on the project?
Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, I would just like to say that having visited the site myself, I think that the infrastructure improvements that are a part of the project are absolutely vital to the area. Getting up to this area with the road as it is was very difficult, and coming back down, there was barely enough room on the street for the car I was in and a pedestrian. So I think improving this area infrastructure-wise by putting utilities underground and whatnot, and widening the roads can give better access to pedestrians and vehicles. I think that is a huge perk of the project from what I've looked at and what I've heard today. I think it doesn't perfectly address the complaints of neighbors and the commission previously, but I think the infrastructure improvements push me over at least to supporting it as it is. And also as far as aligning itself with nearby homes, it doesn't align itself, in terms of the design, it doesn't align itself perfectly with all the nearby homes, but there are certainly newer construction and larger homes in the surrounding area. So I think that there is some conflict with homes directly surrounding the area, but in terms of the surrounding community overall, I think it wouldn't stand out that much from what I've seen of the area. But I also went once. But yeah, I think the infrastructure improvements will be vital and a big benefit of pursuing this project.
Very good. Thank you, Peter. All right, commissioners. What's your pleasure? Well, let me take one issue and see where everybody's at on it. Commissioner Savage has recommended that we consider a number of lots for a condition for single story. Are you on board with that, Commissioner Grimm?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing too, as well, that, you know, that would be one way to do it. The other way to possibly do it too is that you require single story elements on each lot. In other words, part of the lot, part of the house could be 2-story, but the part of it would have to have a, you know, maybe half of it would have to have a single story element to it. So it's, I don't know what you call that, but it's where it's two different levels. Yeah, I would be in agreement with what Mr. Savage proposed.
Commissioner Aguilar, how are you on limiting single family homes?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Honestly, I don't think that any of these will turn out to be 2-story, other than like 23, like you were saying. It's gonna be tough to get the square footage on that. I think people that are going to be inclined to purchase these properties are going to be, this is not a first home purchase, maybe not even a second home purchase. This is, you know, these are people that are going to want to live in these homes for into retirement. So I think single story is probably what's going to be desired, is what they're going to find. So yeah, I support it.
All right, Commissioner Garrison, limiting the number.
I support being specific about which should be single story. Absolutely.
Okay. Commissioner Hastings?
Yes, I also support them.
Okay. And Commissioner Looney? Don?
Looks like he's muted right now. Uh-oh, I think we just lost Commissioner Looney. There might be another connection issue here. He might be trying to get back in right now.
It will. For myself, I'm good with limiting the lots that Commissioner Savage proposed for single family, except for lot 23. So Commissioner Savage, can we exempt lot 23 from your list?
Yeah, I think so. That's the lowest elevation out of all the ones I indicated. And I agree with you. It'd be pretty prohibitive to make that single story. So I'm on board.
Very good. How about Commissioner Grimm's proposal that the 16 on-site spaces be limited to guests? Commissioner Aguilar?
Yes.
Okay.
Again, I don't think you're going to have that problem, but yes.
Okay. Commissioner Garrison?
Yes.
All right. Commissioner Hastings?
Yes.
All right. And we're still looking for Commissioner Looney, but
he's back on, and
Back on.
Yeah, there you go.
okay. Welcome back.
So what did I miss?
Commissioner Savage has proposed limiting lots 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 22, 23, 24, and 25 to single story. I convinced him that lot 23 was kind of weird and narrow, and that they'd have difficulty with a single story home there. So he agreed to exempt that from his list. But all the commissioners so far are in agreement with limiting these lots to single story.
That'd be good.
Okay, all right. And then Commissioner, we were just going through the list. Commissioner Grimm had proposed that the 16 spaces in the parking bay be limited in the CCNRs to guest only. And everyone was in agreement with that, and we were just getting to you.
That would be fine.
Okay. All right, so the last issue that I had on my list was the walking path on the north and east side of the property. I think the property is big enough to accommodate that. I just would be concerned about where the connections are. Of course, there is the extension. I think of it as A Street up the to the north, going to the north, and that walking path could tie in there. But do we want to see a loop around the entire property?
It compromises the security of those properties.
Yeah.
With the path.
Yeah. There would have to be some type of fencing that separated the walkway from the rest of the lot. So, Commissioner Grimm, how are you on the walkway around the property?
I would agree with Mr. Looney. If there was some kind of a master plan where we integrated with the county and, could make that work, that would be absolutely great. But unfortunately, that's not there. So I'm not, wouldn't really be an advocate of it because of security reasons.
Okay. Commissioner Aguilar?
Yeah, I guess if we could have the security address, but that's not something I thought of. I can go either way, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Okay. Commissioner Garrettson?
I would oppose it for the same reason. I don't know if I'd want to buy one of those houses if I knew there was a trail through it, unless there was some kind of security between my property and that trail.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Commissioner Hastings?
Yeah, I don't think it, as proposed, it's a good idea. It would need some real redesign of the whole property, I think. So I wouldn't support that one.
All right. So it doesn't sound like a walking path has got support of the commission. So, seems to me that the majority of the commissioners are in support of the project with additional conditions that the 16 parking spaces in the bays be reserved for guests only, and that single-story lots on single-story units be required on lots 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 22, 24, and 25. Is that get where we're at right now?
Chairman Rossler, and we would also be including the revised and added conditions from the memorandum.
Yes, exactly. All right. Someone want to lead us here in making a decision?
I'll make a motion.
Right, Commissioner Aguilera?
I'll make a motion to accept the recommendation with all of the recommendations that the board has just made to approve.
Okay, so that would be adopting the mitigated neg deck and the monitoring program, and recommending to the council the general plan amendment, zone change, and tentative map with our additional conditions.
Yes, sorry.
All right. Would someone like to second that?
I'll second that, Commissioner Savage here.
Okay. It's been moved by Commissioner Aguilera to approve the project with the additional conditions and seconded by Commissioner Savage. Ms. Chow, would you call the roll, please?
Could I have a comment, please?
Sure.
I
Commissioner
would-
Garrettson.
I would just like to say that I oppose this project simply because of 157 of 190 on there shows that almost 80% of the surrounding area is rural residential. And by taking that one section there and making it a little larger doesn't change the other 0.75%. So I think this is out of character and not compatible with the surrounding areas.
Okay, very good. Any other comments on the motion?
Amanda Guy, Deputy City Attorney. I just want to add that these will be recommendations to the City Council to
Yes.
approve the project as amended. Yeah, just to make that clear.
Right. All right. Ms. Chow, would you call for the question, please?
Certainly. Chairman Rossler, your vote, please.
Yes?
Commissioner Savage,
Yes.
Commissioner Hastings,
Yes.
Commissioner Grimm,
Yes.
Commissioner Garrettson,
No,
Commissioner Looney,
No,
Commissioner Aguilera.
Yes.
The motion passes 5 and 2 against.
Right. Patsy, could we ask that the minutes of the meeting reflect why Commissioner Garrettson and Commissioner Looney voted no?
Yes, we'll make sure that put that into the record.
All right. Okay. We got through that. The next item on our agenda is the North Santa Fe Plaza Apartments. Ms. Chow, do staff need time to get reorganized, or are we good?
I think we're good here, just trying to put the PowerPoint. So sharing the screen here. And hopefully you can see this.
Chairman?
Yes. Yes.
I'm gonna have to switch computers real quick. So, I mean, you can go ahead and get started. It should be in less than a minute.
Okay.
So I'm gonna leave and then come back in.
Maybe it'd be a good idea to take a 3-minute break or a 5-minute break or something.
All right. It is now, Ms. Chow's taking away my clock.
All right, it's about 7:49 right now.
Okay, we will reconvene, what, Charlie, 7:55? You're muted.
Yeah, 5 or 6 is great.
Okay, all right. We will see everybody back here at 7:55. Thank you very much. Myself.
Chairman Rosler, can you see my screen, the presentation?
I can see your screen for the presentation, yes.
Okay, great. And Michael Ressler is the planner on this project, so I'll let Michael take over here for his presentation. Michael, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, Patsy,
Well-
I just wanted to make sure, I saw a few other commissioners, I'm not sure if they're connected or.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, are we all back?
I think Johnny, Commissioner Savage, he might be back here.
I don't see Commissioner Aguilera either.
Oh, yeah, he was still trying to connect on the other computer, I think.
Switching computers.
Johnny, it looks like he's up in the mountains.
Yeah, he's outdoor somewhere. No.
Yep. Outdoors.
The luxury of being on Zoom.
Exactly.
There you go. All right, are we all back?
Except for Commissioner Aguilera.
Go ahead and get started.
Yep, it's just Commissioner Aguilera at this point that's missing.
All right.
Oh, wait a second, let me see. He's on the attendees list. Hold on, let me promote him here.
Okay.
To panelist, and there you go. He should be. Yep, Commissioner Aguilera is there.
All right, very good. All right,
Yes.
we will reconvene and Mr. Ressler, I believe the staff report is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. The project before you tonight is a site development plan for the proposed North Santa Fe Plaza apartment project. The application number is P19-0404. Next slide. The subject site is located on the west side of North Santa Fe Avenue, north of Beaubier Drive. The site is 0.64 acres, 3 legal parcels, and is currently vacant land. The northern portion of this site also maintains a 20-foot wide access easement, which provides access from North Santa Fe to the neighboring property to the west. Here's an aerial photograph of the site. Surrounding land uses include a single-family home to the north, single-family and multifamily residential development to the west, Walgreens to the south, and single-family homes and vacant land to the east across North Santa Fe Avenue. The general plan land use designation for the site is mixed use MU, with the corresponding zoning of mixed use MU 40 with the North Santa Fe overlay, which allows for mixed use and multifamily residential development with a maximum density of 40 dwelling units per acre. The North Santa Fe Plaza apartment project includes a request for a site development plan to develop 21 apartment units on 0.64 acres, which equates to 33 dwelling units per acre. The project also includes a 746 square foot single-story coffee shop. Site improvements include open space, parking, drainage improvements, wet and dry utilities, as well as other infrastructure improvements. Recreation amenities within the proposed development would include a gym, seating areas, playground, and turf. This project does include 2 very low affordable units. In return, the project would utilize a state parking requirement for the number of on-site parking spaces required and qualify for 1 development concession per the state density bonus law. The applicant is requesting a reduction in the drive aisle width from 32 feet to 24 feet within the proposed parking garage. The submitted site plan depicts a 4-story apartment building on the northern portion of the site, as well as a 746 square foot 1-story coffee shop on the southern portion of the site. Access to the site would be provided by 2 24-foot wide driveways along North Santa Fe Avenue, as well as 1 24-foot driveway along Champa Street. In regards to parking, the Vista Development Code requires 5 spaces per 1,000 square feet of gross floor area for the coffee shop. The state density bonus law requires 1 parking space for 1-bedroom units and 1.5 parking spaces for 2 and 3-bedroom units. Based on the proposed count, the project would require a total of 32 parking spaces, and the submitted site plan indicates a total of 37 parking spaces would be provided. As I mentioned before, the applicant is requesting a concession to reduce the drive aisle width within the parking garage from 32 feet to 24 feet. In regards to landscaping, the site has been designed to dedicate 23% of the site to landscaping, which exceeds the code requirement of 10% requirement. The landscape plan proposes the use of native and non-native plant materials. Site amenities includes a turf and seating area on the ground floor. And on the second story, it would feature a courtyard featuring a seating area, play equipment, as well as a gym. The proposed floor plan depicts a manager's office, mechanical rooms, and parking on the first floor, 7 apartment units, a courtyard, gym, storage lockers on the second floor, and 7 apartments and lockers on the 3rd and 4th floor. The proposed apartment building would be 4 stories, maximum height of 54 foot 4 inches. The architectural design of the building reflects a modern Mediterranean architectural style. The building would feature hip, gable, and slope roofs and stucco exteriors. The building elevations are enhanced with features that include arch recess elements, stone veneer awnings, as well as metal railings. When completed, the apartment building would maintain a tan and white color scheme. Here's a perspective of the project looking southwest from across North Santa Fe Avenue. Here's a perspective of the project looking north from Champa Street. Here's an additional perspective of the center courtyard area within the 4-story apartment building. The proposed 746 square foot 1-story coffee shop has been designed to maintain a service counter, display shelves, as well as restroom facilities. The exterior of the building has been designed to complement the proposed apartment building with similar finishes and color scheme. The general plan land use designation for the site is mixed use with a maximum density of 40 dwelling units per acre. The proposed project includes 21 units on 0.64 acres, which equates to 33 dwelling units per acre. In regards to the MU 40 North Santa Fe overlay development standards, the project has been designed to comply with those standards. In regards to building height, the maximum height within that zone is 60 feet. The proposed project would reach a maximum height of 54 foot 4 inches. In regards to parking, the required parking would be 32 parking spaces utilizing the state density bonus law parking requirements. The site plan has been designed to provide a total of 37 parking spaces. In regards to open space, code requires 2,940 square feet. The plan indicates 3,799 square feet would be provided. And in regards to landscaping, 10% of the lots required to be landscaped pursuant to the zoning ordinance. The submitted site plan indicates 23% would be provided. Patsy, it doesn't look as though the whole entire side's coming up. Oh, there we go.
There you go. There are an animation, Michael.
Yeah. This project has previously been through 2 early design reviews on December 4th, 2018 and May 21st, 2019. Since the EDR sessions, staff and the applicant have made efforts to address the concerns raised during those early design review sessions. Here are 5 bullet points that detail those concerns. First, building massing and architectural continuity. The applicant has revised the proposed apartment building elevations to reflect a more cohesive architectural style. And in order to confirm the architectural continuity, staff retained the services of NW Steel Group, which is a reputable San Diego architectural firm, to perform a peer review in order to review the revised design. And at the conclusion of that review, MW Steel Group confirmed that the plans were accurate and represent a consistent architectural theme. Another concern of the Planning Commission was the unorthodox exterior color scheme. Since the previous design, the applicant has revised the color palette of the proposed building to reflect a more neutral color theme featuring tan and white colors, enhanced with a burnt orange color cement tile roof and green canvas awnings. Another concern was the request to provide additional property perspectives. And the applicant, as I've shown in my presentation, is provide north and west perspectives of the project. Finally, the Planning Commission was suggesting potentially having a third early design review meeting. However, the applicant felt as though they addressed the concerns and determined that the third EDR meeting was not a desirable approach. With that, staff is recommending the Planning Commission adopt the attached resolution approving a site development plan to construct 21 apartment units and a 746 square foot coffee shop on a vacant 0.64 acre site located at 1558 North Santa Fe Avenue. That concludes staff's report. Mr. Tony Khalil, the co-property owner, would like to say a few words, and his design team is here is available to answer any questions you might have tonight. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Chow, would you bring the applicant in?
Yes, Mr. Tony Khalil is here, and I'm asking him to unmute himself. I don't know if he has video capability, but he's able to join the meeting.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Can you hear me, Patsy?
Yeah, we can hear you fine, and we can see you too. Go ahead, Tony.
Thank you. Probably better hear me than see me, but good evening, everyone. Commissioners, thank you for your time. And just want to make it real quick and brief. Well, we'd like to thank city staff for sure. This project has been ongoing for probably 4 years now. The last 2 years dealing with this pandemic haven't been easy to actually get everything done, as you know, the challenging times we're facing here. So we hope that we're at the last leg of this discretionary process. We definitely want to thank city staff and in particular Mr. Michael Ressler for his outstanding assistance, minus the one thumb, and then bringing this project to hopefully this phase of the discretionary process. As you can see from Mr. Ressler's presentation, this project has gone through several review cycles and another peer review cycle as well. And it currently meets or exceeds all the city and state requirements, specifically the number of units where 26 are allowed. We're proposing 21 units, parking requirements. We are providing 37 parking spots instead of the 32 required. Landscaping, 10% required. We're providing 23%. Open space, we're providing 3,799 square feet instead of the 2,900 square feet requirements. So we have tried to actually not only meet, but also exceed those requirements for the city of Vista to enhance the project and bring it to this stage. There were also several conditions imposed to get here, and they are very extensive public improvements that are really primarily beneficial for the city of Vista, primarily the North Santa Fe Avenue improvements, curb to curb, and also Champa Street, the resurfacing and putting in the new storm drains, curb and gutter, sidewalks, underground utilities, upgrades to the water lines, the water mains, sewers, storm drains, and so forth. These are all major, extensive public improvements that definitely will be conditioned for this project and will benefit the city and the community itself. The site is currently vacant, and we have been struggling with maintaining it secure. We have a chain link fence with a lock. You know, typically when you have a structure on the property, you board the structure and secure the property. And in this case, we have a vacant lot, easily accessible from North Santa Fe and sometimes from Champa. And we have people continually breaking that lock. We've tried the chains, we've tried deadbolts, Right now, we're discussing a roving security company that will drive by because we do have trespass and homeless activities on the property. So hopefully, as we move forward with this project, this issue will be addressed because we do have, as you know, residential communities in the area, and this type of homeless activity, it's burdensome to everyone, including the sheriff's department. In conclusion, this project will provide much needed housing in the city of Vista and the county of San Diego. In fact, today, the California Renters Legal Advocacy and Education Fund sent a letter to the Planning Commission in support of the project. I don't believe it was solicited, honestly. We have not contacted them. One request we are going to make tonight for city staff and the Planning Commission to consider, and that is on page 41 of 70 of the report. And given the conditions that we're working under, the standard language is to expire the SDP after the first year and then ask for 2 one-year extensions. We are going to request, and hopefully a favorable consideration from the Planning Commission, if we would get a 2-year anniversary on the first round for the SDP for this to expire before we come in and request. Hopefully we don't have to, but before we come in and request another 1-year extension. That would be really the only request we have. Mr. Ressler made an excellent presentation. This has not been an easy process. As you know, we've gone through 2 EDRs already on December 2018 and May 2019. And since then, we have, I believe, gone through several review cycles, including a peer review by a well-reputable firm, MW Steel, to bring this project to where it is now. And hopefully we can get moving with the ministerial process after this discretionary process. Thank you very much for your time, and we're here to answer any questions you may have.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Colley. I guess off of that, John, does the commission have the ability to grant Mr. Colley's request for a 2-year life on his site development plan and then a 1-year extension?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. Questions for staff or the applicant? Commissioner Grimm?
I had one question for the applicant. We talk about a coffee shop. Do you actually have a proprietor that's signed with signed up with an agreement yet, or is this kind of what you're hoping to get?
No, we don't have anyone in particular. Obviously we're at this stage right now in the discretionary process. Once we get the construction documents prepared, most likely we will have someone to come in. The 746 coffee shop in compliance with the local zone, and we maintain the architecture and the facade consistent with the structure itself. So hopefully it will also be a nice place for residents to stop by and have some coffee. As you can tell from Mr. Ressler's presentation, we also have a nice courtyard because we do anticipate this complex, that property, to be housing families, as I said, and we want it to be an integral part of the project.
Great. So I hope you get that. Right now, it's basically retail, though, right? I mean, it could be a real estate office. It could be a lot of different things. I guess that's a question for staff.
Yeah, that's correct. Any use that would occupy that 746 square foot would be governed by the MU zone, which would allow for a variety of retail establishments.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Aguilera, any questions of staff or the applicant?
Yeah, Commissioner Grimm asked one question I had, but I guess to kind of keep going on that, are you going to build a kitchen then, or I'm not exactly sure what a coffee shop requires.
Yeah, I can answer that. Actually, we are going to have, it is one of the conditions to have a grease interceptor and so forth, because obviously coffee shops may prepare some items like breakfast items and so forth. The zone does allow for, an expanded use, but really given the size of the place, it's really more appropriate for, I just heard the sales office or something like that. We never considered that, but right now we're planning to have a fully operational and compliant disabled access bathroom in the back, and put in the infrastructure for water, sewer, electricity, and so forth to serve a coffee shop. Just put in the infrastructure.
Yeah, I think the grease trap, venting, and all that is essential to getting these commercial places rented out. I know we've made some mistakes in downtown Vista by not requiring that or thinking of that, and some of the places have stayed vacant for a long time, and it's because of those people don't want to make those improvements. So that's great. Champa Street, very narrow. It's almost like an alley. What are we widening that? Or what? I'm not exactly. It doesn't seem like it's 24 feet right now. So I'm expecting that we're widening Champa Street. And how far does that go?
Actually, the improvement plans indicate that Champa Street is a private street that'll be 24 feet wide. The project would improve it from curb to curb, and it would also include a new 5-foot wide walkway that would run along the southerly edge of that southern portion of the site.
Yeah, this is. I'm glad you asked that question, Commissioner, because this is one of the requirements. As I said earlier, I wasn't trying to exaggerate or get things out of proportion. But when I talked about extensive improvements, public improvements, that even we're doing North Santa Fe curb to curb. Champa is a private road, but yet but one of the conditions is that we would actually improve it as well. So, and of course, we're going to have to do that to comply with the conditions. But these are some of the extensive conditions that are included to get this project going.
And to include the fact that a part of that widening would include undergrounding the utilities along Champa, along the project frontage, and undergrounding utilities along North Santa Fe Avenue.
Yeah, I don't know, Michael, if you mentioned that, but this is a very expensive, the undergrounding program right now with SDG&E. It's obviously in a reasonable condition, but it is one of the most expensive endeavors to underground structures.
Understood.
Underground
on City
utilities.
Council, that's one of the things we push for. So
yeah.
I expect it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Garrettson.
Yes, I have a question about the north side, the facade, the tower in the back. Are those windows? It looks like they're white, but there's no substance around them, or that one.
Yeah, actually,
tower in the back. Explain that to me.
Yeah, those are just recessions on that wall in order to provide some type of an elevation break. So what that does is just break up the massing of that tower and provides a little bit of a relief along that elevation.
So it's not really a window, just to break up the surface there.
That's correct. They're just recessed panels or archway. Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. I want to confirm. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Hastings, questions of staff or the applicant?
No questions. This has come a long way since the last time we saw it. And I think it looks a lot better. So I'm happy for that. I also like the layouts of the apartments inside. I know we don't necessarily look at that, but I like them. So that's it for me.
Okay. Commissioner Looney.
Great improvements. Tony did, it looks like it's a different project. So you're to be commended on that. Two questions. One's for staff, one's for the applicant. Michael, would both buildings need to be constructed, or could they build the apartments and then build the coffee shop at a later time, if that happens?
Actually, the way the conditions are read, it's not a phased project. It would be developed simultaneously.
Okay. Then the second question, is there an on-site manager or is the off-site manager?
Yeah, I'd probably provide an opportunity for the applicant to answer that.
Yeah.
I've been aware just recently that they're planning on having an on-site manager there, but Tony, do you mind maybe
Sure.
further explaining that?
Sure, Commissioner Looney, always excellent questions. As far as the building the coffee shop, once we embark on the public improvements for Champa and for North Santa Fe, it will make very good sense to prep the whole property, all three parcels, including water, sewer, electricity, gas, storm drains, anything that will impact the development itself. So we do plan on building both structures concurrently at the same time. As far as the second question is concerned, of course, I lost my age now. I lost what was the second question. Oh, the on-site manager. The on-site manager, state housing law requires us to have an on-site manager when you have 17 or more units. That was under the Uniform Housing Code and part of the state housing code as well. But so we do plan to have an on-site manager. It is part of the floor plan on the first floor, behind the mechanical units and right at the entrance. So they have control over who's coming in and out.
Okay, good. Thank you. That's all that I have, Chairman.
All right. Commissioner Savage. Commissioner Savage still with us?
Yeah, actually, no, he dropped. Let me see if he's trying to get back in. Oh, he's trying to get back in. Hold on, let me promote him again. There you go.
Johnny, do you have any questions of the staff or applicant?
I'm asking him to unmute himself, so hopefully he's gonna. Looks like he's over the phone line.
Okay,
go ahead.
Yeah. Yes. Some technological difficulties. All right, now there we go. No, I don't think so. I think my only question for staff was the amount of parking spaces that we have. It feels like there's there's some concessions that are made based on the type of structure, right? I mean, this is because it's the low income. My only question was: is the coffee shop going to be facilitating guest parking from the apartment building? And I didn't know if that had been considered. Because there's a walkway directly from the coffee shop. So just my question for staff was, there's not really anything we can do about increasing any of the parking spaces, correct? I mean, that's kind of where we have what they've followed all of the right local regulations and everything.
Yeah, in providing two very low income units, they qualify to utilize the state density bonus law parking requirements, which is a substantial reduction from the North Santa Fe overlay requirements within the mixed use zone. So they're taking advantage of that. The coffee shops parked at the city requirement, which is 5 spaces per 1,000. That equates to about 4 parking spaces. It's 3.52, I think it is, but that equates to 4 parking spaces for the coffee shop. That site would provide, it's currently showing 6, so they would be 2 above what the city requires on that side of the site. However, with the state requirements for the residential side of it, it exceeds the 3 spaces compared to the state requirement on the northerly portion of the site. So they've kind of dispersed the excess parking from the commercial side and the residential side, but there was no talk in terms of monitoring or managing the guest parking within the development. I hope I answered your question. Yeah,
entirely. I think I don't think there's really a great way that we can mitigate based on. I mean, we could definitely say that we don't want residents parking at the coffee shop. and that might be something that we should consider. But other than the parking issue, I think having the courtyard is gorgeous. I think you guys have done a really great job meeting the requirements of the city, and yeah, I really do. I do think this project is. I think what you guys have created here is really great. It's only I know that parking is going to be an issue, and so I just want to make my voice heard. But it does seem like you guys have met the requirements that are before you. I don't really like it. I don't like that there's so few parking spaces for this project, but what can you do, right?
It's what it is. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. For myself, I was glad to hear that you're going to have an on-site manager. Can you tell me, Mr. Colley, what most of the deck areas and the private patios and balconies are like 5 by 6? I know we don't have any standards in the MU zone for balconies and private open space, but can you tell me what you expect to happen out there in a 5 by 6 balcony area?
Yeah, I think if Mr. Ressler can go through that open space area that so the codes are going to require a minimum of 48-inch path of travel for the decks and balconies for exiting requirements for fire exiting and so forth. The proposal right now is, I believe, for a little bit over 4 feet. I can't see it very well right now on this screen. Maybe Michael can, or Peter, if you have those plans in front of you. But we are going to meet the fire exit requirements, the health and safety requirements that are that govern very much the required exiting and the width of the balconies on both second, third, and fourth floor.
Okay.
Yeah, Alexis, other dimensions identified those decks as being 5 foot in depth by 6.5 feet in length. So yeah, Commissioner Rossler, Chairman Rossler, excuse me, you're absolutely correct on that. As I indicated previously, the only requirement in the MU zone is for common open space, which is 140 square feet per unit. It doesn't prescribe individual private open space. So this is almost, I consider, I guess, an amenity or an additional component of the project and not a requirement of the project.
And Chairman Rossler, I must apologize. I misunderstood the question. Being health and safety conscientious prior before any other architectural elements, I was answering the question regarding the walkways that overlook the open space, not the balconies themselves. I apologize.
Okay. And then I don't know that we have any jurisdiction over it, but why did units D, E, and F have their forced air unit accessible from the hallway and not from the unit? When you look at the floor plans?
Peter, can you answer that, Peter?
I have brought Peter into as a panelist, so Peter, you can unmute yourself. And I don't know if you have video capability, but you should be able to speak.
Okay. Can you hear me? This is Peter.
We can hear you. Yep.
Yeah, can the commissioner repeat the question? I don't understand.
On the floor plans for units D, E, and F, the forced air unit, the heating and air conditioning unit is accessed from the hallway and not from inside the unit. I was just curious why that is.
Oh, that is because on those units, in the kitchen area, in the bathroom area, they are very tight. It's hard to find a location to access from interior. And that's why we put it from the access from the corridor.
Will they be locked and only the resident have a key to that door?
Exactly. Only the resident, the tenant have the key to operate that door.
Okay. All right. And then, Mr. Colley, tell me what you're envisioning for your front yard of the unit where the picnic tables are. I thought that was.
We have the City of Vista's landscape manual that we're working with, and as we have mentioned already, for landscaping, when 10% is required, we're providing over 23% actually. We're more than double what's minimally required for landscaping. Michael, are you more familiar with this, with the type of landscaping on this?
No, I don't think it's the landscaping that Chairman Ross was referring to. I think it's the amenity within that area that he's questioning. Is that correct, Chairman?
Yes.
Okay.
What do we got?
Peter,
5 picnic tables?
Peter, I think you might want to address this one. It's in regards to the programming of that space.
Right, when we design that ground floor open space, we want to create a leisure open space that will be very inviting to the tenants, or when the potential tenant coming in to negotiate the contract, sign the lease, that will be the place to meet the managers. But at the same time, we know the City of Vista have some homeless and transient issue. So the owner has decided to have the full-time property manager who lives right next to the ground floor open space and try to maintain that the safety and security of the open space on the ground floor. And the table and chair is good for tenants and kids to have a leisure lunch and gathering at that open space. The same time, that open space putting on the street front to have a very comfortable feeling for people walking along the sidewalk with the building setback at least 30 feet away from the sidewalk.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant or staff from the commissioners? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and open the public hearing. Ms. Chow, is there any, again, if you're online watching the meeting, you need to hit the raise hand button so Ms. Chow can bring you in.
Yes, Chairman Russell, I just, again, wanted to recognize Student Commissioner Peter Childs. He's still in the meeting. So if you wanted to give him the opportunity to speak, I don't know if you wanted to do that now or later after the public hearing.
I was going to do it after the public hearing, but we...
Sure. It's at your pleasure. I haven't asked him to unmute himself and he has not raised his hand. I was just bringing that up.
Anyone else wishing to address the commission?
There's no other raised hands at this point.
Okay, then we will close the public hearing and open it up to commissioner discussion. Commissioner Grimm, any comments on the project?
Couple comments. First, I'm in agreement that they just really did a heck of a job on the architecture. I think it's going to be a huge benefit and improvement to this area. I did want to also just make a comment on in agreement with what Mr. Savage said, in that at night there's going to be extra, not enough parking, and these people are going to, like in most apartment complexes, they will flow into other areas. The question is for this area, and I drove around there today, where do they flow? There's no really normal residential streets where that flow would likely occur. So I'm not sure where that excess would flow. So that's a concern. But be that as it may, we are under restrictions from the state on what we can do about that. And I guess like Mr. Savage, I'm just basically saying, gee, I'm really concerned about where that overflow is going to go, but it doesn't mean I wouldn't support the project.
All right, Commissioner Aguilar.
Yeah, I share in the same concerns about parking. I know there's not much we can do about it. Something was mentioned though about not parking in the coffee shop at night. I think that would be a mistake to restrict that. I think the idea of mixed use projects is to incorporate daytime use of parking for businesses and nighttime use of parking for residents. That's really kind of the essence of mixed use when it comes to parking. I will tell you that a lot of cars do park on the street there. So that's basically where they're going to go, or the Walgreens. I see people parking at Walgreens. I think they probably live in campus. I'm not really sure, but I've seen a few cars parked there as well. They have a pretty big parking lot, and then people park there at night. So it's unfortunate for the business, but that's kind of what the state has imposed on us. But other than that, I think this would be a great project to improve the area. That is a problem area, with just homeless and people breaking into the property. I've seen it myself. I drive by it quite a bit. I live not far from there. So I'm happy to see any kind of development really come into the area and improve the area and get eyes on the area, and hopefully that will keep some of the crime down. So very supportive at this point.
Very good. Commissioner Garrettson, comments?
I like what they've done here. I think with proposed projects across the street, plus this one, I think it has a opportunity to really revitalize this area and make it a really great place to live. So I'm in support of this project.
Okay. Commissioner Hastings.
I'm also in favor of the project. I think they've done some real good hard work to improve it and make it a really useful part of the neighborhood.
Good. Commissioner Looney.
A great improvement. I think, as was previously mentioned, it is going to help revitalize that part of North Santa Fe, which is good. It was earlier mentioned about the that north-facing tower on the northwest corner having a little bit more delineation to it. I think it'd be nice to have a little bit more architectural fenestration on some of the windows. But as far as an overall project, I think it's very positive, and it's going to be an improvement.
Very good. Commissioner Savage, comments?
Yeah, I like this project a lot. I think this is going to be. I have a hope that this coffee shop ties in a lot with. There's a lot of traffic that goes past this way for the attendees of North Coast Church down there. So I hope this kind of builds more of an interest and more time spent by some of the community in this area. Just that coffee shop there, and it looks like a good project. And it's cool to see so many changes made to address things like the change in color and stuff. So appreciate the applicant making all those changes, and it looks like a good project.
All right, very good. For myself, I had a question for staff, and I don't know whether Michael, Amanda, or John needs to weigh in. It seems to me on the affordable projects further south on North Santa Fe and then in the Paseo area that we had similar restrictions or reductions of parking. But I also seem to recall that the management had the ability to limit the number of cars tenants could have. Am I right about that? And is that applicable here because of the reduction in parking?
I'll take that one, Michael. In response to your question, Chairman, the affordable projects are under the management of companies that typically build affordable housing, and their standards typically include that they control how many cars their tenants operate. Our experience with the existing affordable family projects that aren't, limited in some age grouping, but are just open to anyone that meets the affordability requirements, is that they typically don't all have as many cars as you'd see in a typical multifamily situation. And so the parking the parking stalls and most of those projects are not full every night, or maybe they are full with residents, but you know, there's very few guests overflowing. Down on Paseo Santa Fe, we do have a little bit of overflow, although we have the street parking available. But I can tell you on North Santa Fe, the one across from the transit center, they have a garage there, and we've counted it numerous times, and it's very rarely full of cars each night.
But because this is, besides the 2 units, this is going to be market rate, are those conditions applicable here?
We cannot impose those conditions here, as far as I know, and I can kick that to Amanda, but I think because they're using the affordable housing law, we're limited in what we can impose.
Yeah, I would agree with that, John, but our hands are tied on that.
Okay. All right. It was just an idea. So, all right. I'm looking at my notes and I'm not seeing that there's anything else that we want to consider on this project as far as conditions of approval. Did anyone else have an idea that I missed that you wanted to change?
Like Commissioner Childs, Student Commissioner Childs.
Oh, thank you. Student Commissioner Childs, comments on the project.
Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, sorry, I tried to hit the unmute button, but yeah, I think it's a great project. I just want to quickly mention that my colleague Kasani was booted and she was having technical difficulties, so she apologizes for not being able to get back in. But no, I think that like building up and increasing density in this area, especially given the proximity to local businesses and multiple schools. I was looking at a map of the area and it looks like it's near an elementary school and a high school, which would make it a very attractive location for families. And I think it's well within walking distance of those things. So I think it could give a good location for people that might not have access to cars. And it has okay access to transit centers as well. I just think building up and increasing density is the way to go as Vista grows. And that's something that I think is really important. My only question would be, and just know that I have limited knowledge on how this all works, but is there anything limiting including more very low income units that I might be unaware of?
That decision, as far as I know, is up to the applicant.
Okay, that makes sense. That was my only real question with the project. Other than that, it looks like a great location to build this sort of project on. So I think it's a great idea.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll move staff recommendation.
All right. Is there a second?
Commissioner Garrettson, I would second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution approving the site development plan for 21 units and the coffee shop at 1558 North Santa Fe. Ms. Chow, would you call the roll, please?
Sure. Chairman Rossler, your vote, please.
Yes.
Commissioner Savage?
Yeah.
Commissioner Hastings?
Yes.
Commissioner Graham?
Yes.
Commissioner Garrettson?
Yes.
Commissioner Looney?
Yes.
Commissioner Aguilera?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Very good. Congratulations, Mr. Kahali. Good luck.
Thank you so much, Commissioner and Michael and Patsy, for their great jobs.
Very good. Moving on to our last public hearing. I'll give Patsy a moment to there we go.
Okay.
Mr. Conley, I believe the staff report is yours on the sign amendments to the Vista Development Code, signs on private property.
Yes, it is, Mr. Chairman. This should be quick. Next slide, Patsy. So we are seeking some clarification in a sign code amendment that we brought before you tonight related to residential signs and temporary signs for election. We've had some issues with interpretations of these code sections. And so based on some correspondence with the attorney's office, we brought forward an amendment to the code. So Development Code Chapter 1852 is what we use to regulate signs on private property, which is where these regulations would fall. And we're recommending some amendments for clarity for these two areas of the sign code. Next slide.
Oops. Was that?
There's I think about 4 other slides.
Oh, hold on. I went the other way. Sorry, John.
Okay.
I'm using the roller. I went up instead of down. Sorry.
Table 1852-06A is what's in Chapter 1852 that provides all the standards for the different types of signs. And there's categories for all the sign types in this table, but the only ones we're focusing on tonight are residential signs, which you can basically put in your front yard if you're a residential property, which the zones, the maximum number of signs, and the maximum size per sign that's currently in our code are listed in the table shown here. So you can see residential signs are allowed in all the residential zones. There's no maximum number of signs, or it's listed as NA, and there's 4 square feet of total sign area allowed per sign. Temporary election signs are allowed in all zones during the temporary election periods. Again, the maximum number of signs permitted is listed as NA, and the maximum sizes are listed there, 6 feet within the public right of way of 6 or 16 feet if they're on private property. The issues that we're largely having are with the NAs and the way that they're interpreted. Next slide. So in the residential zone, you can see we've removed the NA under maximum number of signs permitted. And we've indicated that you can have an unlimited number of signs as long as the aggregate total of all the signs does not exceed 80 square feet. And the maximum size per sign is changed from 4 square feet to 16 square feet. These changes are based on prior legal decisions where private applicants have challenged jurisdictions on their First Amendment rights to post signs on the residential properties, and the numbers that we're recommending here have been defended in the courts. And that's the kind of basis for the numbers that we're recommending. Next slide. With respect to temporary election signs, same thing. There's been some confusion over the maximum number of signs permitted. And so we've taken out the NA and we've indicated that they're unlimited within the public right-of-way area and unlimited in areas other than the public right-of-way, so long as the aggregate total does not exceed 80 square feet. And again, these are based on prior legal decisions. It should be noted that temporary signs during an election period are only allowed a few days before, I think it's 35 days before the election, and they have to be removed 5 to 10 days after the election, but it's only a temporary period of time. The Planning Commission's action on this is advisory to the City Council because it's an amendment to the Development Code. So your recommendation tonight will be taken to the Council most likely in February. And with that, staff is recommending an amendment to Chapter 1852, which is provided here to approve the Commission's resolution recommending Council approval of ordinances amending Section 1852-060A of the Development Code relating to residential and temporary election signs. And I am available for any questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Instead of going through the roster, if you have a question, raise your hand.
Commissioner Aguilera raised his hand.
And Commissioner Graham. Commissioner Aguilera?
Yeah, this question, this is in regards to the staff report. It's, and I think in your report, Mr. Conley, it says that the 80 square feet would equal basically 4 16-foot signs, and it actually equals 5. So are we trying to limit it to 4 signs, which I'm fine with, or 80 square feet?
We're trying to limit it to 80 square feet.
Yeah.
So it would be 5 signs then, right?
Yeah.
If they're the maximum size, yeah.
If they're the maximum size, but of course they could do smaller signs, so they could have more numerous signs than that if they were smaller than 16 square feet.
Got it. Okay. I'm supportive of this, so yeah, that's fine.
All right, Commissioner Grimm?
Yeah, I was kind of going to hit on the same section that Commissioner Aguilar talked about. So if someone had a single family property that fronted a major street and it was, say, 60 feet, 50, 60 feet wide, they could basically have 4 signs with.
Uh-oh, it just dropped.
Charlie?
Something happened with his connection. It disappeared. So he might be trying to get back in here. I can let you know, Chairman Russell, when he's back in, if you want to take the next commissioner.
Any other commissioners have comments? Commissioner Garrettson?
Yeah, you know, I think anytime we start to put a number and limit free speech signs like this, it should cause us a little bit concern. But I started looking, you could have a sign with these limitations for the president, senator, congressman, governor, city council. I mean, this doesn't limit you too much, in my opinion. It could create some clutter if you got a bunch of little signs, but I think this really protects free speech in terms of the number of signs you could have and the number of candidates you could support. So I agree with this proposal.
All right. Still don't see Charlie coming back in. So this is a public hearing, Ms. Chow. Do we have anyone that wants to speak on this issue?
No raised hands, Chairman Rossler, at this time.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing then and open it up to commission discussion. I told staff earlier that having any type of sign in the public right of way gives me heartburn. And it looks like Charlie may be trying to get back in.
Oh, here you go, Charlie. Oh.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
Okay. Charlie, go ahead and finish up your comments. We opened and closed the public hearing in your absence.
Sorry, you guys. I thought my battery would make it through the night, but it went out. I just had that last question for, I guess it was for John about the 4, that's a lot of signage for a small, a small bit of frontage. It's not that big a deal, but it just seems like a lot of signage for a 60 foot.
You are correct. And and Commissioner Garrettson's comment is somewhat correct. It could create some clutter. But
it's temporary.
We're in First Amendment land and our rights are fading away when it comes to the First Amendment and city's ability to restrict people from free speech. So what we're recommending is really based on legal decisions, and we feel like it's a safe recommendation. If we were to go any more restrictive than that, we really risk a legal challenge that we probably can't win.
And that's fine. It's not that big a deal. It's a temporary, like you said, it's 35 days, something like that. So it's not that big a deal. Okay, that's all I had.
All right. I was saying that I had heartburn with it because it allows signs in the public right of way. And I don't think there should be any signs in the public right of way, both from a professional and personal standpoint. I had noticed, though, in the last election, there were a lot less signs in the public right of way. Maybe candidates are getting the idea that the citizens of Vista don't like their right of ways being cluttered with campaign signs, but that's up to them. So we've opened and closed the public hearing. So any further discussion? If not, would someone like to make a motion? Gary?
Yeah, I move that we approve the amendment as presented.
Right, it's a recommendation to the city council. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Aguilar seconds the motion. Ms. Chow, would you call the roll, please?
Certainly. Your vote, Chairman Rosler?
Yes.
Commissioner Savage?
Yeah.
Commissioner Hastings?
Yes.
Commissioner Grimm?
Yeah.
Commissioner Garrettson?
Yes.
Commissioner Looney?
Yes.
Commissioner Aguilera?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Very good. Thank you. All right. The last item on our agenda is comments from the Community Development Director and reports from other commissioners. Anyone have anything to share? And then we'll go to Mr. Conley. John, what have you got for us tonight?
So we will have a meeting on February 1st. We only have one item, so it shouldn't be a long meeting, but I do have an item that I have to bring to the commission that night. So it will be virtual. We'll send everything out to you ahead of time, but we'll hold it in the same format as we held tonight. And hopefully it'll be over a lot earlier than 9 o'clock.
Yes, it's been a long time since we've gone this late.
Yeah. We do have a city council meeting next Tuesday night, the 25th. There's a couple items on the agenda worth mentioning. One is we're revisiting our homeless master plan, and we're talking about a possible shelter location. So anyone that's interested in the homeless shelter discussion should attend the meeting or follow up with me afterwards. And the council will again discuss a proposed general plan amendment and zone change off of Sunset Drive. It's right in front of the Green Valley Mobile Home Park, kind of over near Costco. Came to council back in September and they asked for some changes, and the applicants revised their plan, and we'll go back to council with a less dense project than what they had originally proposed. And that's it for my staff report, unless anybody has any other questions.
Questions for Mr. Conley? I had one. I asked Chris earlier in the week about what's happening at 607 Civic Center. We approved a project that went up and behind, I want to say about 12 townhomes, but they left the existing single family home, and it looks like they're building a new garage with a ADU above it. Is that what's happening on that property?
So yes, they are building an ADU with a garage. I think they do have an application for a larger multifamily project behind it that was approved, but they haven't moved forward with. Down the hill from that, there's another 10-unit project that's under construction right now, and that full site development is underway. But yeah, the project at the corner there next to Crescent, I think, is going in a phased manner. Patsy, do you know any different?
No, that's about same information that I have, and it's Michael's project, the one to the south and the one that's not in construction, the one that is actually starting construction, I should say, and then the one to the north is Gil Miltenberger. It's Chris's project. Commissioner Looney has raised his hand, Chairman Rosler.
Oh, he has, hasn't he? Don?
Got two questions. A year or two ago, we had approved a new McDonald's on the corner of Civic Center and Santa Fe. It's still there. I didn't know what the status of that was. And then also across the street for the community church.
Yes.
Where are those at?
So the world's worst drive-through will go away someday. We do have plans for a McDonald's that has a new drive-through arrangement there and a new building. They have slowly been processing construction plans. They've had some real concerns and issues with the undergrounding of utilities that were required in the original entitlement, and they've been fighting us on that. So it's taking a lot longer than we anticipated because of their reluctance to meet our conditions. But we are still working with them, and we do expect that they will build that project. They just haven't gotten there yet. With respect to the church, they have indicated they have purchased the former Walgreens building. They have indicated an intent to go in there, but they have not filed a formal application with us yet.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Charlie, you had a question for John?
Just one quick one, I hope. A while back, we approved a project there on South Santa Fe, just past the Arco. And I know we'd noticed, especially Commissioner Looney, that there were some problems there. I just wondered if those have been resolved. And it looks like it's looking a little better when I pass by, but I really don't have a lot of time to look at it. But I also wanted to thank Commissioner Looney for catching that as well.
I'm going to go ahead and let Mr. Wrestler answer that one since that's his favorite project right now.
Yeah, actually the property owner reached out to me last week and was requesting modifications to the landscape plan. Was coming up with some alternative material he wanted to use. And he also brought up the fact that he finished one of the buildings and wanted staff to review it and give him our opinion on it. And my response was that once he builds the project per plan, that I would go out and do a final inspection on it when the time was right. But unfortunately, I already know that there's a list of outstanding issues that they need to address. I provided them with that list. And unfortunately, they haven't taken that in consideration and they haven't perform the improvements that need to be done in order to final that project. So we're a long way away. Who knows? It might come before you guys. I hope not. I hope that he takes the initiative and builds it per plan, but I don't have confidence in the project at this point.
Great. Well, it sounds like you guys are on top of it, and I appreciate that.
Chairman Rossler, Commissioner Aguilera has raised his hand.
Aguilera.
Yeah, my question has to do with the last traffic circle there, the Walgreens, Pella Mesa. Where are we with acquiring that property?
We've acquired it. The church actually, after they purchased it from Walgreens, closed with us, and we've got the right of way now. We've actually executed a contract with PAL Construction, who's doing the Palo Vista Park, to build it, and they're supposed to start construction, I believe, in the next week. So you'll see some activity out there. We're notifying businesses right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
John, while we're on it, where are we with the Palo Vista Park?
We are experiencing some delays as a result of manpower issues with the contractor and some problems with SDG&E on their undergrounding and energizing the underground utilities. But we probably will see activity back out there from the contractor in about mid-February. That's our current expectation.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Conley tonight? If not, we will stand adjourned until February 1st. Thank you guys very much tonight for hanging in there with our video conference here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right.
Everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.